Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 57 of the Pylon Show. Thank you for tuning in. We've got a stellar cast. I'm going to use the word stellar here. I think when I look at these people, I look at 3 of the top representatives of each race. So we'll, of course, be talking some balance here and some other fantastic things. Let's just go down the line. Returning to the show, all the way from Peru, aka Southern California. It's Root Cats. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you, man?
Pylon. Good, man.
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. I just noticed I have a weird universe background. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Matt slipped you an ad earlier, and you agreed to the terms and use, so now he's in your computer. Cool. And when we think of cats, we think of cats in space. So
perfect.
There it is. Cats, you've been on the diet train lately. I've been reading your Twitter and stuff. Are you getting back into it? How is your fitness?
Yeah, I'm actually in a pretty good spot in that regard. Right now, I'm at I've always been a little bit overweight by the,
Sure. Not American standards, but yeah.
Right,
Peruvian
exactly.
standards, I guess.
Yeah, just world standards,
Yeah.
So I'm for the first time coming close to not being overweight at all, like reaching my ideal weight, and I don't know, I feel pretty good.
It's more than that, Kat. See, I have a memory for these things, and here in the StarCraft world, we take shirtless young men very serious, and you actually said that you want to have a 6-pack, so I'm gonna...
Oh, I would love that.
I'm gonna ask you live on air, when will you have the 6-pack, and when will you take off your shirt to show us to prove it?
You see, when I make statements on Twitter, those are the statements that I'm willing to put out as a way to hold myself accountable. So what you've done is you've upped the ante, because that's something that I considered, but I didn't set. You know?
You have to. And the worst thing is you can just say you'll eat a shoe and then just don't eat the shoe. That's fine. So or do what Kevin did, promise and just never do it for 4 years running. So
1 year then. 1 year seems like a safe bet.
1 year. Okay.
Or is that unreasonable? I don't know. I've never seen my abs. It's very difficult to determine.
You're already kind of small. I don't think it's that much further to go, right?
I don't know.
Just do some running and dieting. Let's say, okay, 1 year is super safe. But here's the thing. If you say it, if it's 1 year, because that's so safe, people are going to actually... This will be like the next, documentary controversy. Like, if there's not 6-pack shirtless cats in 1 year from now, there's going to be some really actually upset StarCraft fans. So you're going to hold to that?
Yes.
Okay. July 17th, 2020, guys. Year of the cats. And like I said, we're laughing. There's going to be somebody who's like, right now they're writing the code. Okay. 2020. That's it. That's all I'm living for. Okay. Well, Cats, thank you for making that promise. This is already a great episode. We have also returning a man that plays all the races, a controversial figure, I'd say. We still get questions about his brush with the Brood War scene, his YouTube videos, his battles with Kevin, just beastie cutie out in the scene, making it spicy, filling the vacuum, the void. It's Mr. Beastie Cutie. Thank you very much, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me once again. Yeah. Took a little nap. Feel like I'm ready. Slowly waking up once again. Ready to do it. Do
you live in Serbia? I'm gonna just come out and say it.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going there in a couple weeks. If someone's traveling to Serbia, what is your off-the-cuff native Serbian advice to someone? Am I gonna get robbed at a taxi? What's the best food?
No, it's pretty safe here. Best food, just eat anything meat related. There's a lot of Serbian food meat related that's very unique to the Balkan area. You're not gonna get robbed. There's the chances are very low here.
All right. How hot is it there right now? Are you guys roasting?
I don't know in the F's, but it's about 25 to 30 degrees Celsius.
30
so
is
it's
bad.
It's not too hot. It's not burning hot, but it's pretty good. Wait, are you actually coming here?
Yes, I am.
Why?
ETC World Championship for Warhammer is in Serbia this year.
Oh, damn. Nice.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Well, that's good to hear.
Nice.
All right, and then we have returning. It's been too long. One of my favorite people in all of StarCraft land, Jess, but you guys know her as Zombie Grubbing. Thank you for not grubbing. Well, not right now. Sometimes you are zombie grubbing, I guess.
I mean, I don't think grub is used as a verb, man.
It could. You could zombie grab too,
Could.
someone.
Could you zombie grubbed?
I think the moment you'll have to like really take a stock of your life is if you ever do speak in third person with your name as a verb. Like, it's weird when I do it, but if you did it.
No, you don't like it? What if that was like the name of like my subs? If I was like, guys, we're zombie grubbing down here. Just chill.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I just quietly judge you, I guess.
All right.
It would be dig or poke superficially at the earth, dig shallowly in soil. That is grubbing, I think.
Oh, you can
he
grub.
looked it up.
Yeah.
Dictionary definition.
You get zombie grundle. Grundle's a weird word too. It's got a lot of different meanings, but just it sounds like what it is. You know what I mean? Like if you're grundling something, you know what you're doing. You ever grundled something, Jess?
No.
Okay, good. Good answer. How are you doing? Otherwise, what are you up to?
I got a few things going on, I guess. I'm doing that 30-day challenge, which has been doing pretty well. Tonight I have, Call of Cthulhu, episode 3, The Cult of Azathoth.
She's doing some D&Ds, checking her out with Maynard and Livy B and Fear Dragon.
Yeah, Fear Dragon. Yeah, exactly. So that'll be fun. And just doing everything else as normal, I guess.
Okay. Same thing, 30-day challenge. I understand this to mean that you'll have a 6-pack at the end of 30 days. So, Cats versus Zombie Grub, 6-pack off?
Yeah.
Okay.
30 days.
Your timeline's a lot harsher.
What's the 30-day challenge?
What's that?
What is the 30-day challenge?
I just chose 8 goals that I had to do every single day, and I'm challenging myself to do them.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, by making it public, it's like it just adds up a little bit of weight, just like you were talking about with your stuff.
Very cool. All right, guys. Well, just a roadmap today's episode. As you noticed, Mr. Artosis is in China commentating the WCG event there that we've been talking a lot about leading up to. It's going on this week. I wish I could tell you more about it, but to be honest, it's a pretty lump of shit event. Like, it's just 4 players playing with some amateurs that got out there. It's cool if people... there's like a pro-am thing, and you could win a trip to China. So that's pretty cool, and I'm happy for those guys. But unfortunately, when we heard WCG, we were kind of hoping for, like, Nation Wars-esque event like we had back in the Brood War days, where a lot of the best players qualify and go to a place and then compete, and that would have been really cool. So maybe it'll build up to that, or maybe not. But anyways, he's off doing that, so it's just me and these lovely folks. We have a great episode for you guys. Some of these guys can't stay forever, so we're going to kind of try to limit our show, which of course means it's going to be 2.5 hours now that I've said that. So as such, we're going to go through the topics, then we'll go through This Week in StarCraft, then the questions, and then we'll sign off. But we've got some great topics for you guys this week. Yes, we'll talk about that balance patch round 2. What do you even call that? It's like the Redux? They're like, let's actually take another look at balance, right? Because they're not doing both.
I think it was always the second proposal, you could call it.
The second proposal.
Yeah.
If last week was the alpha, this is the beta before
This
it
is the
hits.
beta proposal. I like that. That's how I want to do things from now on. It's very safe. I want to be like, how do you think of this? And they'll be like, well, before you answer, know that it'll have a different... Anyways. So we're going to go through all that, and that will be our episode. So there's your roadmap. I think we'll always do this. First and foremost, I got to thank our sponsors real quick, and I've gotten really good about this. We have AFKT, ran by Mr. Lycan. You know it, you love it. Dan drinks it. Use code Pylon to save yourself 15%, but of course, this also helps us engage with our partners and let them know that working with us is awesome. Then we have Maturino. This is something that is integral to a lot of the StarCraft 2 scene. A lot of tournaments are put up and crowdsourced through this, as well as our show. So if you go there, we celebrate a national day. Cobra, what is today's national day? What is it?
Well, this is actually a little bit of a story. It's National Hot Dog Day.
Hot dog.
But Rifkin,
Right.
Rifkin, being the clever soul that he is, went to Maturino and said, "We're going to steal the code hot dog."
What?
But not to be outdone, we're going to use the word hot diggity dog.
Oh God. Okay. I don't. Well,
we're not going to have our hot dog day stolen from us.
I know. I do blame Rifkin, but I would have to say hot diggity dog is going to throw a lot. I don't know if I'm super jaded or not, but I think a lot of people will have a tough time. Well, anyways, there it is on screen. Again, if you're listening to this or if you're podcasting it, that's hot diggity dog. So the diggity, it's HOTDIGGIDYDOG, all is one word. You guys, I have to say, have been doing an amazing job of this. We've been capping it out each time. We get people that are like, I can't put a code in, and that's because so many people already cap it out. So please continue to do that. It ends up being a great way to support the show. What's that, Cass?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. And there's a hot dog. BC, you ever had a hot dog? Is that a thing that happens over there?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not a complicated
Hey, listen. Europeans got some weird shit. Like, you guys don't have peanut butter or something like that. Or you guys... Or you think it's gross is what it is, right?
I mean, we do, but it's kind of like... I realize it's something that some things you don't grow up with, so it's just kind of weird. So peanut butter, for me, I tried it. I'm like, okay. Like, if I had...
Wait, when did you try it? When did you try it?
I don't know. Like 15, 16. Because it's not really popular here. So when I tried it, I was like, okay, if I was starving, I would eat it, I guess. But
if I was starving, I would eat it.
Yeah, it's not like my go-to food, but I feel like every country has that.
Yeah,
like that one, not necessarily one thing, but a couple of things that are like weird for other countries, and for them, it's like, what? You've never had that? It's like,
yeah.
Well,
Americans, we put we put peanut butter on celery. I have it with apple slices, which I really like. Actually, that's really nice. What else do we put peanut butter on? Toast.
Jelly,
of course, sandwiches. But then some people get weird. There's people that are like, I put on my pizza. Don't listen to those people. Nobody does that.
Cow heart is delicious. Everyone in Peru has had cow heart.
Yeah, and there's cow heart. Mexicans have cow tongue tacos.
That I couldn't do. Ugh.
You can't do that. You can eat the heart, but not the tongue.
The heart is delicious. The thing is, you grow up eating the dish as they call it, and you don't know what it is. So at some point they're like, it's cow heart. That you're like, well, it's fucking delicious. I've had it so many times.
Too late now.
Yeah.
I mean, we're on the topic of hot dogs. Americans don't know what a hot dog is. That's for damn sure. We hear rumors and we go, you know what? Let's stop. Let's just not talk about that. It's meat byproducts. It's all the shit that they don't use. We're eating meat garbage. Anyways, there's the code. Please do support us. And then, of course, the biggest way to support the Pylon Show is through our Patreon. And we have an amazing support network of people that have continued to support the show through our 1.5 years now at this point in time. We're pushing 2 years. So just thank you to everyone that does that. We'll, of course, go through the names at the end. But if you are interested in submitting questions, writing essay questions, or just supporting the show, Patreon's the way to do that. So thank you all. Okay, let's get to the topics real quick. First topic is the WCS Summer Recap. I think we'll pull up that bracket, but this was a great tournament. None of us attended, so we all had to be fans back at home. I'm just going to throw it out to you guys, and let's just go off the cuff. We can talk about results, of course, but let's hold that. What was your just general feel? This is the second go of Ukraine in that Star Ladder studio hosting WCS, and what were your guys' thoughts? Anyone want to take that one?
Sure.
Zombie?
Yeah, the actual tournament itself still had I feel like a lot of the problems of the last one. So I think the biggest one is that the audio was still messed up, which was like not the worst thing ever, but there's just moments where like literally the analysis almost always was drowned out. So that was a little weird. And then the first day, like I know that the format is super popular with basically everyone, but especially pro players. But it does, like, for me, still adds even more of like, well, I kind of already fell behind paying attention to day one. So I'm just like not really invested in day one. There's just so much stuff happening. And unfortunately, with the way that we work our events and the amount of budget I think that any event has, it's really hard to incorporate all those strings into something like a story. I basically just go into day two, read who won, and go, okay, now my story starts. Basically.
Now the tournament begins.
Yeah, unless something really extreme happens, obviously. But then because it is a knockout thing, they got the extra time. It's like, how extreme is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let me jump in there because I think Zombie, in her incredible professional way, just segued really nicely into a topic that's a big one. If you're on Reddit or see the discussion kind of circulating this tournament, one of the big discussions as such is the viewership was a little bit tough. Not critical. We're not we don't need to bring back the memes or anything like that, but it just wasn't an improvement. It wasn't more exciting. There's a lot of reasons for that, but I want to throw it to you guys. Is there something to what Jess is saying in the sense that day one, kind of tough to get involved. Even if you do really poorly in the group, you're just being seeded worse off on day two. A lot of breaks, and it just kind of resulted in a slightly lackluster in terms of numbers WCS event. Did you guys feel that, or is there no semblance of truth to that? What do you guys think?
I'm sure that. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that every factor factors in. It's just a matter of how much. And the final still had a great peak viewership, right? So
yeah, like I said, it was okay. It was
Yeah.
like 50. The numbers are on Reddit, but it's like 53 or something. Previous one got up to 65. So not critically different.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I think that speaks a lot to what the viewership can be or can become, right? Because those are people willing to watch StarCraft, so give them a better show and they'll watch it.
What do you guys think about the idea that tournaments like this are better for the hardcore fan? Kind of like what Zombie was going off of. There's like, it is universally loved by everyone talking about it, right? Like there's nobody that says, I hate this format, but because there doesn't seem to be as much drama or a clear storyline, it's hard to see this appealing to the mass audience more. If it was truly successful, I would believe the first event would have a certain amount of performance, and the next event would improve upon that, right? Like we'd have less audio issues, we'd have hopefully a crisper show just in general, and then a better show overall. But if the format is just not able to perform because it's just kind of, it's better for the hardcore fan but worse for the casual, is that a problem? Or is that even real?
I mean, I think it, again, like Kat said, there's a lot of problems with it, but I did not watch day 1 and 2. It kind of feels like, what's the point when it's like, oh, you got 4th, well, there's a knockout bracket, and then, I'll just watch that instead. It feels like groups lost their meaning a little bit. Like, I mean, who cares if you're 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th? Like, even if Sarah goes 4th in the group, which usually it would be a knockout, well, now he's just going to be like, oh, let me, wake up, let me, get a coffee and just go through the knockout bracket. So there's no, effect of, wow, that you see that guy went 3rd, he got cheesed out by this guy, because it doesn't really matter. And we actually, I think, discussed this in a Pylon show previously. I do agree that for players, this is great. Like, if I was competing, I would love this. Like, this is amazing, because we all know that sometimes you have a bad day. Sometimes you have a bad group stage. Sometimes you get, maybe matchups you're not good at in your group. So this is great for that. But it's very poor for the storyline. And it's kind of hard to connect to, hard to watch. Because I feel like, you might have Cyril, Neeb in the group stage, but do I really care? I mean, they've played plenty of times, but they're kind of not playing for anything, if that makes sense. There's nothing on the line in that exact moment. And that's pretty much what it comes down for me. It just, again, it's a great system if you're a player, and for hardcore fans, your favorite player might not get dropped out, but at the same time, because your favorite player might not get dropped out, there's no surprise. There's no, quote unquote, worse players making it in over someone really good. And then it's kind of streamlined into getting your top 16 almost always.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the loose rule of competition, and this is not like a true statement, but it's kind of a guideline of sorts. The better it is for the pro gamer, the worse it is for the show. The better it is for the show, the worse it is for the pro gamer. Like, one of the worst, an interesting example, I guess, maybe, is back when I was on that reality show, WC Ultimate Gamer. We looked at it as a competition. We were like, this is $100,000, man. This is a competition. We got to win this. But then you look at how fair all the events were and stuff. It was fucking terrible. It's so stupid. They ended up I think they were doing underwater race car. Like, the people were underwater. Like, it's not about the competition, right? It's more about how crazy it can be for them. And that's taking it to excess.
I feel like you almost made a comeback in the Dance Dance Revolution, right?
Oh God!
And that was the story. That was the story that got me engaged. You know, it was like it was Jeff in Dance Dance Revolution just being the worst, to Jeff almost winning in Dance Dance Revolution.
Well, they filmed it that way. It was not close at all.
Well, they sold it as if it were. That's my point.
Sure.
Yeah. It's kind of a good point to make, though. Like, I know we're all joking, but that is probably the worst thing about this is actually not the format, but what we are limited to with 3 days of StarCraft.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of other bigger esports have evolved into week-long events while still maintaining good viewership and not having viewer fatigue, and that's amazing. But they also have the money to even rent out that place for 4 days. So we get a lot of stuff packed into 3 days. Where only one and a half of the days feels kind of like natural and smooth, and like we can kind of start tying the stories together. That's day 2 and day 3, because we're missing not just the extra days, like a day 4 to really like have time to look at the bracket and look at the storylines, but we're missing anything else that can dramatically highlight storylines, right? Like, basically a cool storyline happens in day 3, we get to day 2, Maynard's bringing up like the Lambo Hearthstone stuff, and the casters in that single hour of that commentary have to highlight that this was a really cool story, guys. It's awesome that they got here. Here's the match. And that by that time we get like, you know, a little bit of adrenaline, and then it's kind of over with, as opposed to someone down on the floor being like, oh my God, I just heard that Lambo's making the comeback. All right. Like, he's actually going to the knockout bracket. We're going to go over him and like, we're going to talk to him and like really feel what he's feeling right now. We don't have any of that. So
yeah,
it's almost entirely on just like how limited we are with our events. And unfortunately we get to that stopping point. It's just like, well, it's money. You know, we can't even hire the 6th person to be down there. Much
I don't know about that. I mean, there are camera people focused on the audience. I think that the extra budgeting would be the lighting, like a lighting set, right? That's probably somewhat expensive, but I don't know. I feel like they have the personnel that this done.
You would need someone.
Red Bull did this exceptionally well, right? Like Red Bull was so good at this, and Red Bull events were like some of my favorites, at least to watch, even though the prize pools were never crazy either.
So
it would, you know, jam you in a room and be like, okay, like, what's you guys' stories?
Yeah, like, oh, you're not wrong. I think this is an interesting conversation to have because it kind of pulls back the curtain. Mm-hmm. We often throw this away by just saying money. It's not entirely just money. That is obviously part of it. A lot of times about focus. So if you do have someone that's doing a roving camera in an area where they're going to catch some segments of this, there's a lot more to that than just literally having a person that does that. There's like, can they catch those moments? Does it feel contrived if they do? Are they familiar enough with StarCraft where they can actually get in on that? And then can they extract that interesting moment from Lambo and Hearthstone? And those are 2 charismatic people, so I would say yes, you could. But very often it's like, Neeb versus Cyril. Neeb, wow, this is a huge epic match coming into it. How do you feel? It's like, I think it's a really good Zerg. It's going to be a great match. I can't wait. Wow, back to you guys. That was huge. You know, so a lot of shows, it's not that they necessarily can't put the money together. It's that it starts spreading them, right? It starts to get to a little bit harder. And that's why we're lucky we have like ESL in the scene. They've done a great job every year of trying to bring that pizzazz anyways. And if you look at their shows, you'll see a lot of those elements we're talking about kind of missing. And it wasn't that they just could afford it necessarily. It's that they had the people and they had the, well, the money as well to take that risk and to try it, but then execute at a really high level. Because imagine again how bad it would be if it was just like Svetlana, you know, throw to her, and she's like, players competition, very good here. We have, you know, and it's just like, then it becomes a meme. Actually, the kind of funny thing is maybe that's a win too, which goes to cats. Like maybe you just try it, right? But we kind of been doing this throughout all the years, where it's like we talked about making videos, introduce the players to humanize them, and then in this
those
case,
have done great for BlizzCon. I would argue those are fantastic. The signature series have been great.
Well, I wasn't saying they're bad. I would just say that we've always just talked about it, right? But to your point, the counterpoint to that, those are great, right? Go look up the viewership on them. It's terrible. So they were a nice part of the show, but they sent an entire filming crew to some of these guys' houses in different countries to film these videos, and they're incredibly well done. Mm-hmm. And then the reach for them and the return is very little.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame, really. I wouldn't have thought that. I would have thought that because they got me interested in some of them.
Yeah.
For sure.
And there's a lot of fingers to be pointed. We've talked about this a few times on the show, but like the hardcore StarCraft fans love it, right? They melt. It's amazing. But hardcore StarCraft fans, it's like 250,000 people, which is still good. But then the videos have like 50 to 70 to 100,000 views. So even the hardcore fans aren't going back and watching it. They're just seeing it as part of the show, and they're like, cool, that was amazing. And then how do you advertise those videos to the average audience? It starts off really somber and quiet with a random Korean dude in Korea talking about his hardworking path to gaming. You show that to like a 17-year-old Fortnite player, are they going to be like, oh my god, let me watch this 5-minute video? No, they're going to be like, fuck this, and they just like swipe past and go somewhere else, right?
Then how would you do it then?
It's a great question. I always talked about the tone in the videos was really weird. Like the BlizzCon, everyone was like, these are amazing videos. It felt like all these guys were going to die in the next year. Like every video was just like this guy, all his friends were out banging chicks and they were doing cool stuff, and he was at home playing Brood War, and it like cuts to him and he's in his bed and he's like looking at it, he's like, I played this for 15 hours a day. And then like cuts to another scene, he's like on a bridge and he's like, if only my hands don't fail, then I should probably maybe win. And it's just like the whole thing. Like again, StarCraft fans were like, oh, his sacrifice. But for me, like as an average, if I put myself in the average person's perspective, I'm like, is he dying? What? He's like, no, he plays StarCraft. Shut up, sit down, please. There's people watching this. And they're like, oh my god. And that was every single video. Specials.
The major one was great. Come on, yeah.
They're all good, cats. I'm not gonna say they're bad.
But I mean, the start was like I
him walking up a hill.
Yeah, but with the Mexican music.
With the Mexican music, cats.
It was like all Korean themed, and then he walks up, and then the Mexican music pops in. I thought it was great.
Same tone. He like walks into a shop and he's like buying an apple juice or some shit. They're like, cat, you look special.
Music, though.
Standing against the Koreans, he's like, oh yeah, you know, I tried my best. It's like
no one has ever died to that music, though. Is what I'm saying. The Mexican.
Died to Mexican music.
People died all the Mexican music actually. So.
I think what Jeff's saying is not really real. Like you can see, it's like that's not what those guys do. That's not what those guys say, right? Like no one's, is preparing for a tournament. They're like, well, like he said, they don't sit there and like going on a walk and like, I hope I can do this for me and my family. Like, that doesn't happen. It's not in real life, right?
Sure.
I mean, Major walking up the hill listening to Mexican music.
Yeah,
it's not gonna happen. So. I think that's his point. It's like, I don't know. I would personally like, I mean, we all know that. We all know they all practice, right? We all know they're all playing. We all know they all have parents, right? What would I like to see from a video? I mean, don't overproduce it. Make it simpler. Make it more fun. Make it more engaging.
Make it live.
I'm trying to, learn about the player, Like, what are they good at? What are they passionate about except StarCraft? When did they start playing StarCraft? If they have an interesting story, but not like, what this game means to them. I think it's kind of too, I don't know, cringy for me to watch that, especially if it's being rebroadcasted throughout the tournament.
Did Red Bull have the right idea then? Because they would jam two players in a room a lot of the time and be like, okay, what's you guys' stories? And then they would talk about that. They would ask you 4 questions, and, you would have something to going into the match immediately, right? That interests you, that engages you.
Yeah, I like the rapid fire. Like, oh, come here, we're going to have this guy versus this guy. What do you think about the match? What did you do yesterday? What's your favorite food here? The answer, go play the match. I like that personally. It's not boring. It's different questions. It's random questions. It's not like, what do you think is going to happen? Like these players, something that people don't realize, these players play hundreds of games against one another monthly. Like, what do they think about playing each other? Nothing. They've played them so many times, they don't think anything. Because they played so many games, there's so many mind games. The question is too complicated and at the same time too simple. And I feel like no player is like, man, I hope they ask me what I think about the match. They don't think anything. They just want to go and play it. But I think asking these random questions maybe relaxes the players a little bit. Again, connects them to the audience. And that's pretty much it. But I like these, like you said, rapid fire questions, just before the match. Doesn't have to be super prepared.
What they think about each other, I think, is the best. you know?
But ask it in a non-professional way, right? I mean, don't ask him to insult the other guy, but be like, what is the worst thing about, Lambo's play?
That sounds like asking for insults. Almost. Yeah. No, I thought about
like, but sort of community. Sort of no one's gonna say like, his macro's terrible. Like I've seen it. Like no one's gonna say that, but you can say
that would be hype. That would be hype as hell, right?
That would be, but that's the thing. You say it jokingly, right? What do you think is the worst thing about Lambo's macro? And someone's gonna say because he gets supply blocked all the time, and Lambo's gonna be like, no, I don't. Like it's kind of like opening for back and forth. Maybe, but again, it's a lighthearted question.
Maybe the specifics we don't necessarily agree on, but I think what I'm pushing us towards that I think and someone tell me if they disagree, but I just think tone, right? Like more upbeat, energetic, interesting. Like and we could spend time and this is hopefully what other people would do, orchestrating the exact video, but just something. I'm sensitive to it because it's been 20 years of StarCraft, and it always falls in the same category of like, oh, StarCraft, wow. You sacrifice so much to be here. And it's just like, and it is true. And that's why I don't say these videos are terrible. That is true. And it is cool. And it is a cool aspect of StarCraft. It's just that it's the stereotype and it's boring. And everyone's already heard it already. So when that video is out there live, is someone flipping through YouTube and they're like, Jesus Christ, I didn't realize TY worked so hard to get here. Let me check this video out. Wow. Yeah. He's been doing it since he was young. A StarCraft player that played since they were young. Oh my God. And he's Korean. I thought he was Japanese. This is amazing. Like, no, nobody's doing any of that. And that was it was a highly well-produced, incredibly filmed, edited video. And people liked it. So again, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, this is the worst thing ever. I'm just saying the general tone of StarCraft, as Jess started us on this path, is very like, we don't have the money to really experiment. We know it's tried and true, and we're going to work on that. And then when these kind of opportunities do come up, I have to be critical. I have to say, I think we missed a couple opportunities because some people were like, StarCraft fans want to hear about special versus Koreans from the element of representing all of Mexico. And no one's ever died of Mexican music, so and then they just start. That's the video.
I think we should get back on track, but I'm going to try and loop it back. Yeah. But I think one thing that we have to consider is that the community is almost as much at fault as just Blizzard doing, maybe little thinking on what the tone would be for this tone. We all jumped on the announcement of GSL's new the logo, the slogan of like 1v1, the most competitive game. We kind of make fun of it, but the idea is Blizzard at some point was like, you know what, StarCraft is actually the most competitive game. It's 1v1. That's what's special about it. So we're going to push that really, really hard. And the hardcore fan base was like, yes, thank you for acknowledging that we are the most difficult game and that we're proud to be 1v1. And now it would probably be up to the community and us to actually tell people like at Blizzard or whoever's left in StarCraft 2, like, actually, maybe we should try and appeal to people who are coming in here and being like, I don't know what all was going on.
Yeah.
Which is, it's really hard to do. All the hardcore fans, the ones that are actually saying something. So anytime like a caster goes into not analysis, it's like, this caster doesn't know anything.
Yep.
Why are they appealing to newbies? But I think that is what's driving these signature series and the tones of the events is something that everyone kind of all agreed was good, but maybe we've gone too far in that direction.
Yeah. Interesting.
Interesting.
I think GSL is doing a really good job with the interviews lately. Like the questions are, I think, funny. They're different, and I feel like they're trying different things. So
yeah,
I think that's already an approach that I would prefer much more over WCS.
Wow. Look at you going for that clickbaity Reddit. You prefer GSL to WCS. There it is, you guys.
No. Just the interviews.
I know, of course. I'm just teasing. All right, so back on WCS Summer. I love this talk, guys. That was kind of the ethos of the event. Like I said, the viewership was not terrible. We're not talking about an event that collapsed and failed. It was a fantastic event. They did a good job in production. They just had some of the same snafus. And then, some other ideas that were out there is that this is a tough time. There's 4 other top esport events going on that weekend. People are talking about cricket. As I understand, that's not just a bug, but a sport that actually British people play as well. And then all kinds of stuff. July is actually always tough. I think some people don't know that, but it's talked about every year. July, June, something about going back to school, or everyone's like getting their last vacations out. Viewership and just esports in general kind of suffers during that time. And if you're StarCraft, which is one of the sucker fish of the esports scene, it's going to be especially tough for us. But moving away from that, let's talk about the results of the event. Spoiler alert, I guess, but if you're watching the Pylon show and not wanting to be spoiled, but StarCraft results, thank you for coming. But this is a bad place for you. Raynor is able to win in the end in a close series against Serral, which is a ZVZ, but an interesting developing story, right? Like, it kind of looked like Serral took back the mantle of nobody can touch me. He had like a rocky early year, and one of those people that kind of rocked him was Raynor. But to win this finals, that's a big deal, and it's pretty amazing for Raynor, who's now guaranteed to go to the StarCraft 2 finals at the end of the year, which is probably at BlizzCon. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. I really appreciated that the finals went that way, because we actually started, I started to see a lot more people saying, like, and they still said it, like, post series and like all the Reddit threads, like, yeah, well, the tournaments are getting boring now because Serral's winning everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the hype is that he might not, and it did happen. So what is your complaint now? So I'm glad that it happened. It felt like it would be inevitable, and it's cool that it's a really young, really like charismatic guy who is like, it's actually just really wholesome for the community.
It is.
He's wholesome. His family's wholesome. And I'm looking forward to their continued rivalry. It kind of sucks at ZVZ.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting.
Which suffers from ZVZ early ZVZ, like Wings of Liberty. It's good now, right? Like, ZVZ is a good matchup now.
I like ZVZ.
But the general, we're going back to like the general public, especially, like, they're going to see ZVZ and be like, I left 2012 and now it's fucking ZVZ again. Like,
right.
That's actually mostly people will say when they left. It's like, I was watching Husky in 2012 and I stopped because Bruther and Fester.
Fair, but wouldn't that be the hardcore audience that we were talking about, or is returning players also count as like new people?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I just to reinforce Jess's point, and maybe you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like there's just still. I still have, like, I don't want to quite call it PTSD, but when ZVZ comes up, my, like, body goes, ugh. Like, oh, God. But then I have to, like, mentally remind myself, I'm like, no, this is sick, actually. Like, I love watching Serral ZVZ. Serral versus Raynor is an amazing ZVZ match. Which I'm just more saying, yeah.
How would we go about getting that message across, then?
Well, I think they're trying. Commentators got to hype it up and talk about it. It's funny, too, because you can't be apologetic. You can't be like, guys, I know it's a ZVZ, but listen to me. Right. Which sometimes pops up.
I think what's really great about this is that, and this goes back to like maybe not as much analysis but more story building, is that instead of saying like, this is the tournament, that this is the road to the finals that these guys were on and it's ZVZ, you instead do like, this is the road of the players and these are what their matches looked like. And then if you could actually get some like highlight videos of like that game 6 and game 7 of Montreal, or the winter stuff, or anytime they played, you show some of the actual highlights of it too. I think that would go a long way. People would start to respect the story over any of the actual game footage.
You know what's so valuable too? This is a complete aside. I'm sorry if there's Blizzard people watching this. This sounds like really nitpicky and complaining, but we love you. Some companies, like the DreamHack guy, who they moved to CSGO, but ESL has a really good guy as well. Just a highlight guy, like what Zombie Grove just said. You can take some of these matchups in these amazing moments. You got to add like electronic music and fucking spin the camera and shit like that to grab the young people's attention. But like a good highlight person can make some montages of these clashes, and you just splice that in between broadcasts, right? Because that was another one of the complaints with WCS Summer. There's a lot of downtime. Some of those highlight videos or something like that to hype up matches and stuff would be pretty cool. I guess that's just an aside. Look at the ZVZ. Who doesn't love that? Look at that. Roaches and Ravagers?
Yeah, well, as someone that's from Europe, been watching them my whole life, so I have a really hard time getting excited over roaches.
What if I told you there's lurkers sometimes?
I can only see so many roaches die and be made, and die and be made, and die and be made, so...
It is rough.
I mean, it's a great matchup. These guys are, two of the best, but, I mean, I've seen it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So
do we need StarCraft 3 then, or
like it's just ZVZ that's killing me. Like you guys know, like Europe was always Zerg heavy, and it's just I'm just too much ZVZ for me. That's what it comes down to. Like these guys are the best. Like when you watch them, they make ZVZ interesting, right? But it's ZVZ at the end of the day, and I feel like that's how a lot of people feel like as well. And I think for me, actually, when WCS was coming, the first thought I had was, I really hope it's on ZVZ finals again.
But it's frustrating though, because ZVZ is actually giving us some of the best back and forth finals when we compare it to the other Cyril finals where he basically dominated. It's like, yeah, ZVT, and maybe more people did tune in because Special was Terran and it was TVZ in spring. Maybe it was because he was from Mexico and there was actually a lot of Mexican fans. But but the actual finals, like, it's legitimate. Like there's a ton of like country specific fans that do tune out when like their country's gone. But like it wasn't actually that good of a finals. So it's like it is hard to remind ourselves, like, do I want a ZVZ that I've seen a billion times, even if it's really good, or do I want to see a TVZ that I haven't seen in a little while, but actually could be terrible? We should be choosing the first one, but it is, I'm very with you. It's like, it's hard. We have to remind ourselves every time. I think we
can't really choose either way, right? So it's like,
yeah, I can't.
Yeah. So how do we make the best out of the CVC situation? This should be the question, rather than do we like it or not.
Well, we'll get to it in a second here at the next Pylon update, but I think the leading idea is to nerf the shit out of Protoss again.
Just put them on the same side of the bracket.
So all ZVZ up to the final.
All the Zergs get filtered to the
same side of the bracket. You can't have a ZVZ final. There you go. Fixed.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, like PvP for me is to watch is probably worse matchup than ZVZ, but I would love to watch Neeb Showtime finals, because we don't see those two go at it when it's the finals and it's best of 7.
Yeah.
And it's PvP and there'd be so many mind games. I would love to watch that, right? Even though PvP is, I feel like, probably less interesting matchup, but it's just something that we don't really see ever.
Let me try this, BC Cutie. Hang on. Close your eyes. Imagine this.
Sure.
Laser versus Rainer. Are you excited?
No.
Lambo.
I just see too many roaches.
Lambo versus Cyril. What about that?
No, just put them all on the same side.
Okay, same side. I like that.
Same
idea.
side. Just throw them all
modified brackets. Like you play Zerg, so you're on the Z bracket, as it turns out.
Yeah.
We pretty much just all agree that we don't want mirror matchups as finals. Well, like the other problem with mirror matchups is that you get one race-specific fan that leaves. Now you have two. Now you have two. It's just literally.
You don't have that problem with Protoss because everyone else hates them, so they're watching anyways too.
Yeah.
It's a different reason, I guess, that they're watching, but.
I don't think it's problem of necessarily the matchup. I think it's how much you see of the same matchup. I think the same problem would be, let's say if we watch TVP 5 WCSs in a row, I think that would kind of be boring as well, especially if it's with the same players.
Well, I think Jessica just made a point that's like objectively true, right? Which is there's going to be fans of each matchup that are inseparable to those of each race that are inseparable to those races. So in a mirror matchup, two of them leave.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Yeah, it's just it's unideal. But we could talk about which mirror match was the best. Katz is right. Like we have to find a way to make these interesting. But the honest truth is that sometimes I guess we can't. Like I don't know what it's like for other esports. Like the CS:GO have a problem of repetitive styles and finals. I know they have and it's not even a problem. It's a huge storyline that they have repetitive champions and rivalries, and that's great. But the styles don't seem to ever. I don't know. I don't listen, pay attention. So someone chat could correct me, but it does seem to be a bit of a StarCraft problem where like we sometimes just get a matchup in the finals that's inherently less interesting, even though we could try our best to really hype it up.
That could be, and maybe that's a topic someone should make note that we have this discussion, but it's kind of a downer, but that's the advantage of team games versus solo, I think, right? Team games, there's enough complexity that even if it is Team Liquid once again facing off against Astralis or whoever, the fact that, like you said, the fact that they're there for the 4th time is interesting, but then can Elige keep going with him being the top player and all this stuff? Elige is a former StarCraft player, but I always mention that guy. Love him. I think there's enough there, whereas in individuals, it's like, Cyril was so dominant that is the storyline, but it's actually like year 2 of that. And Rainer's interesting because he's the young upstart. He's already won a couple too. So then it becomes the matchup, and the meta is pretty stagnant. It's just like you do these certain things. Rainer for a while was like, no, you go Lurker Ling. Do you though? Do you actually go Lurker Ling? So, okay. Well, looking at this bracket as our final kind of comment about this, was there anything else that leapt out at you guys? It was nice seeing Showtime perform pretty well. He was very down going into this, tweeting stuff like, I just can't do it anymore. But then he takes top 4.
He had to, right?
Maybe a week break or something like that, you know?
Yeah, something like that.
3 weeks ago, he dislocated his shoulder, I believe. So, 3-week break.
He's bench pressing like a semi-truck or something like that. We did get Neeb Serral. That was mega hype, but how was the series?
You know, it was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, none of that was a rhetorical question or not.
All my questions are not rhetorical. Okay. I care about what you guys think and say.
TLO beat Neeb, which was one of those things that kind of got overlooked because it was on
group stage
1 or 2. I don't remember, but yeah, there was actually apparently some nice like banter. There was the bants about TLO and his performance. Like,
I love it.
Future was a little overconfident against TLO. Unfortunately, we just don't really didn't really get to see it.
The tweet was so funny. He essentially tweeted, "Nobody beats TLO 15 times in a row" or something. Yeah. Which is like, it's just so funny. It's obviously a playoff of another joke, but Neeb had literally beaten TLO 14 times in a row or whatever it was. And then finally TLO got his revenge. It was kind of funny though, because it was in that group stage. It doesn't really matter, right? But since then, Special ends up dropping to Rainer, who's on his path to winning. Hero Marine with another good performance as well. 3-0's a laser, but then loses to Rainer. But everybody lost to Rainer, so no big deal there.
Yeah. I don't know if there's many other, like Mana had a surprisingly good run. He always feels like he's like, where is he exactly? And then he has like an explosive run to BCS. Looks nice. I want to say one of our older players, but he's actually really young. He's just been in StarCraft forever.
He's just been playing since he was 15.
Yeah. And then I guess we could kind of bring up like a controversial thing where like the North Americans did accept the usual North Americans, I should say.
Yeah.
Special Scarlet Neeb. Didn't really have any breakout performances.
Nope. Is that controversial at this point?
Not really. No. Controversial is not the right word. It just is like, it's almost like low-hanging fruit, actually. Yeah. Maybe that's the right phrase.
Yeah, I think I hope they have a breakthrough soon. Some of them, like, there's so much youth rising in StarCraft.
Wow. Youth rising.
Well, what did you say? I mean, just look at the bracket.
Well, Future, I think this might be his first international tournament, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. And he took, I thought it was top 32 or something like that, which is pretty cool. It's very tough to go from the United States to Ukraine and compete very, very well. But that would be some of that rising youth that Katz is talking about in a non-erotic way, I hope. Well, that's an okay performance, but it is funny that it's low-hanging fruit, because I do agree with that, where it's like, he's a terror in the NA scene, right? Like, he's a shoe-in to qualify behind Neeb and Scarlet or whatever, and Masa. But then gets there and kind of loses to whoever. So that's tough, but hopefully the next performance, like Montreal, will be very good. And then Masa, I think, is more what Zombie was talking about, where that was not great. But that's kind of what you get with Masa, too. He is... A lot of people forget this, but for me, he's like Mr. Inconsistent. He can beat anyone on a good day. Like, he's an actual like GSL Terran destroyer. He's amazing. And then he could just straight up drop to like Estrella, who's very good. Don't get me wrong, but not, the top tier caliber that he's supposed to be. It's kind of all over the place.
Actually, one thing that stood out for me, Nurture almost knocked out Rainer.
Yeah.
He was leading 2-0, and then, so that was actually, for me, probably the most impressive thing in the bracket. I mean, obviously, Rainer beating Serral, but Nurture's been gone, I feel like, forever. You used to see Nurture and expect like a top 4 at least kind of thing, but he's been gone for a while. And I remember for like the past year, every time I see him, he loses to players that you would never expect him to lose. So for him to almost beat Rainer is pretty impressive.
Pretty sick.
Yeah, I think so.
Bad for old Nurture, who looks exactly like Rainer, by the way. They both wear a Red Bull hat and glasses.
And glasses.
That's it. That's all it takes. Zombie Grub. The two white dudes look the exact same. My final note, unless you guys have something, would be that Time with another great performance. He kind of tore it up. until he eventually did lose there, but he eliminates Clem, who's been red hot as well. Pretty cool. A good Chinese player, by the way. We're talking about like things that could, spike interest in tournaments. The fucking Has effect of Spain from last year was gigantic, and that's just Taiwan. If Time can put together a grand final or a top 4 or some kind of huge run, he could very well save StarCraft.
Sure. I'm with you. There would be a spike for sure.
Yeah. Very big. Okay. Well, that's WCS Summer. If you guys missed that, they tweeted out the replay pack, I believe, immediately after, which is absolutely incredible. Shout out to Indy, who observed a lot of that. Casters did a great job. We got Manner in the chat. Fear Dragon. You guys did a wonderful job. I wasn't able to watch a whole lot, but from what I saw, top tier. Top tier event. Very good. Let's move it along. Next topic is... Oh. Cobra reminding me. You guys get out there and vote for the Team Liquid map contest. So there is a picture right there. Our very own username tweeted the link. Maybe we'll put it in the chat if someone wants to get super awesome about it. But it's kind of funny. Who said this? I can't remember who said this, but they made a really interesting point. And it's art imitating life again. But there's like 250,000 people that play StarCraft 2 every month. And then the amount of people that vote in the Team Liquid map contest is like under 2,000 every time. Which
That's
is like
hardly surprising, though. Team Liquid has fallen from its, go-to place on the StarCraft 2 interwebs.
Yeah. We need the Reddit map contest.
Oh, God.
I mean, it would probably have more people.
It would have a lot of votes. A lot of Chanmans in there.
I think that's brilliant. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have talked previously about this, but yeah, I think that's a great proposition.
Well, I just do it for the memes. The
Chanman joke you don't. Come on, like that's a great idea, right? It is the better hub.
It is.
Yeah.
I always like try and remember to bring up this. Like you guys always ask, like, what do you guys want to talk about? And I'm like, meh. Whatever. You guys already thought of stuff. But I actually always forget to bring up just like I keep saying how far Team Liquid has fallen. And I feel so bad. Like I don't mean it in like a like they suck now or something. But it just
they're doing fine.
Of course, Team Liquid as a whole is doing fine. But I'm at the website for StarCraft 2. It used to be the place to go, and it's definitely not anymore. That is another.
I tried posting there a couple times this year. It hurt a lot.
Well, you kind of peaked when you made the K-pop Reddit thread.
I did peak many years ago. That is true. Well, get out there and vote, though, guys. So a lot of you guys are in the chat or listening to the podcast. You play StarCraft. Just make a vote. Just look through the maps, peruse it, make a vote. And if you're on Twitter and stuff like that, retweet, share it. Let's try to get the votes spiking up here. Moving on, we have lessons learned, pros and cons of running the Banshee tournament with Zombie Grub. So Zombie Grub, it was what, 2-3 weeks ago? You guys talked about how the Banshee tournament's going to go on a little bit of a hiatus. You want to talk about that and kind of, I guess the reason this is a topic is A, to talk about what happened there, but B, it was amazing. You guys ran it for a long time, and if you learned anything to impart on the community, share your wisdom.
I don't know if I really learned a whole lot.
Wow. End of segment. Next question. We got.
There you go. The like one frustrating thing was like a little bit of the credit taken away from me because I named it Banshee Tournament, which was like sometimes I kind of regretted, but it did its job, which I'm gonna walk away like being most proud of. Like everything that I set out to do with the Banshee Tournament happened. Like it was a nice, safe space. Not ironically, it was a nice place to be for women who wanted to compete. They had no worries that if they went back to chat to watch the cast or whatever, that there would be a bunch of people lol XDing a woman can't play or something like that.
Right.
We had repeat participants who got better over the year, like a lot of our Terran players from exactly a year ago, because it's like exactly a year like next week, have gotten a lot better. And I did manage to like draw a lot of attention to the Banshee group, which is apart from the Banshee tournament, but that's why I wanted to make it. Was the first reason, and also to be like, hey, there's also this group that you guys like can casually join and casually have this place to talk to, and you can hopefully stay in StarCraft for longer, because I know that was something that I was a part of when I first got into StarCraft. I was in the clan PMS H2O. and just, tried to find places that were actually of cool people, which was a bit easier to do, surprisingly enough, 8 years ago, just because almost every content creator had their own clan. And I guess today it'd be like on Discord, but like somehow, despite having better options in StarCraft to create communities, it's actually kind of worse. It's weird. But anyways, it did that. Lots of people would come into the Banshee Discord and be like, hey, I saw this on YouTube. Hey, I heard about it on Twitch. Hey, my friend told me about this. So it kind of, it kind of nailed it on all those fronts. And the reasons that I'm shutting it down, at least temporarily, like I could definitely see bringing it back in the future, is that the money did dry up. We got like a hell of a lot of support, like too much support even like a year ago. That seriously, like week number 4 or something gave us enough money to go until there's 3 more Banshee tournaments. So that was awesome. Yeah. And I'm sure there would have been more if I asked for it, but it also was one of those things where I was also getting a little tired. I was traveling a ton, and there's other events that happen on the weekends that are actually like paying gigs. So I was very commonly not getting like 1 day off, much less 2 days off. So it was a nice stopping point. So being 27 tournaments is, 54 weeks. So yeah.
Well, that makes sense. It's very cool. You guys have any questions for her?
I do. So I understand everything you've said. I agree with everything you've said. But what about having other casters then step in your shoes and like keep the support running? Because I feel like you've created this space, and it's a good space to have.
It's not out of the question. I do occasionally bring in other co-casters. Ragnar Arquette's actually the go-to person at this point. She's really cool, but I feel like I have to be like brutally honest and say that if I'm not the one streaming it, even if I'm tweeting about it, it won't get the same support. Because it happens every time I do, have anyone else commentate and use their stream.
Even if they stream on your channel, there's the channel key thing.
Yeah, I guess I could think about doing that. The other problem though is just it ultimately all comes back down to me. Even though we have a great admin actually, that is very attentive, but I'm still the person that everyone's like, hey, there was a problem. A dude potentially was in our tournament. What do we do? And I'm just gonna have to be like, oh, I don't know. I'm casting Challenger. I'm doing something else. Like, I don't want to deal with this. So even just as like the figurehead to the whole thing, it's still a responsibility that, that might be how I pick it up again, honestly, is like, I'm like, hey, this is a great opportunity for these other commentators get their, their time to shine. But then I also am like a little, I always felt like, unless I was paying them to use my stream for content, always feels like a little weird. It totally benefits me and hardly benefits them.
Yeah, maybe they can take a price or a piece of the price or of the donations or whatever.
Yeah, it's possible. I had people, at least one person say like, oh, can't we just do it like, for like no money? We just do it for fun. And again, I feel like being realistic, it's not really going to be the same without any amount of cash whatsoever. But they're all good ideas that I could definitely look into for bringing it back. But I just want to.
This is the first hiatus it's gone on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that too, right? Like over a year of running this.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I think not to make it a pity party, but there's a lot of people that kind of look at stuff and like, what's the big deal? You stream it, you're going to stream StarCraft anyways and stuff like that. But like Zongra was just talking about, organizing people and filtering out the human shit that just comes with people is actually exhausting. Not just like on a literally I can't do it, but I find it, and stop me if I'm wrong, Zongra, even just in the stuff I organize, like it just eats away at you. So over time, it gets harder and harder to deal with the same kind of thing. Not even that it like escalates and becomes worse, but like, I think the other fatigue, and maybe you don't experience this, but one that I'm thinking I sympathize with, is if you have to constantly ask for support or ask for people to chip in, that too gets really hard, especially as a content producer that does other things as well, right? So like, if people are supporting the Banshee tournament, but you've used all your, like your invisibly allotted amount of like, hey, pay towards this and please support me. But then you turn on your stream and go back and are like, I need subs, please do subscribe. And you just, that becomes all you do.
Yeah.
It either fatigues the audience, which follows you to both places, by the way, or it fatigues you because you can, I don't think most humans are equipped to ask for that much all the time. It's tough as a streamer.
Yeah,
but I think a hiatus is a good thing. It's healthy, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to. I was prepared for any type of backlash, but actually there wasn't. People were actually very nice. They just were like, hey, whenever it comes back, like I got $50 waiting, whatever they would say. So
very
cool.
cool.
I mean, there should be the opposite of backlash for sure. I mean, what you did.
Yeah, I think.
Like, just the thing is, like, I was totally prepared for someone to be like, you're living the dream, you shouldn't complain about working 6 or 7 days out of the week or whatever. But that was actually pretty cool.
That's cool to hear. That's good to hear. What were you gonna say, Beastie?
I mean, I think it's no matter what you decide in the end, I think it's like great that you did it, you went at it, and I think taking a break is important no matter what you do. So, you might feel one way or the other now, but in a week or two or in a month, you might be like, oh, I want to try this again. Maybe you're going to change something. Maybe you'll keep it the same. So, I actually think like even if you plan to get other casters or someone to help out, I think you should do it after taking a break, not force it now. Just be like, okay, I'll just get someone else.
Yeah, recharge.
Because sometimes taking a break gives you a different perspective and maybe new ideas and kind of gets the passion back for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for talking about that. I know you've talked a lot about it on your personal stuff, of course, but sharing it here is nice to put it out there. What would be, so I already see comments in the chat and stuff like that, but like, if you're going to take a hiatus, that's fine, but if people did want to talk about pledging money or supporting or whatever, what's the best, do you have your own Discord or the Banshee Discord, or what would you say is the best place to go and be like, let's bring this back, this is awesome?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. The Banshee Discord is all women, so you couldn't really go in there and be like, hey,
I'm a dude,
guys, and they get kicked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's actually a really good question.
Wait, I guess the next, when you do, if you do bring it back, we'll talk about it and announce it and stuff.
Yeah, I guess like it's it's probably something I shouldn't say, but even if like a bunch of people were like, yeah, I'm really excited for it to be brought back, it just wouldn't change my desire to do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's great to know that everyone's supportive, of course, but I'm not even really sure it would be much of an opportunity for you to, for your words to actually mean anything, as mean as it is.
No, I think that's fair enough. Well, cool. For the few women that are listening, just know that, because I even saw someone like, I didn't know this even existed. We try to talk about this stuff quite as much as we possibly can, but yeah, there's a group of people or women that are playing StarCraft and talking about it, and it's a great group. They're all the regular names and a whole bunch of people that I've only come to learn through This Week in StarCraft and following the Banshee tournament, which is really cool. So check it out. Their Discord is out there, I guess. And I think they have a Twitter, too.
Yeah, you go to the Banshee's Twitter.
Yeah.
I think the Discord's links there.
Okay. Well, thank you for talking about that. Let's move on to the next topic here. I'm buying time for Cobra to pull it up. Community update. This is the big one.
Big one.
So, for people that don't know, last week, or actually like maybe 2 weeks ago, they had a community update where they proposed some balance changes, and you're like, God, that sounds interesting. Well, hey, the previous Pylon show talked about it at length with some fantastic guests. You can check that out on ArtosisTV, or you can listen to it on the various different podcasts. If you're like, well, Jeff, that's a bunch of clicking. I don't know how to do that. Head to our website at thepylonshow.com. And if you can't do any of that, understand that you need help. So we're going to talk about the second wave of the community update. This is the next proposal. As I understand it, they are not in conjunction. So if you're looking at this and you're like, they're nerfing Protoss again. Not again, just a different way. It's two different ways that they're thinking about nerfing Protoss. Maybe they'll mix and match. Maybe they'll do it all. Who knows? As a Protoss player, I'm completely used to this and ready. Maybe. But anyways, let's just go down the line here. So they start off by saying, hey, all, 2 weeks ago, we announced our plan. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but they just talk about the changes. And again, the previous Pylon show talked about it. And now they have the next wave of possible iterations or changes. So scroll down to that now. Proposal number 2. Keep scrolling. Remove changes. Warp prisms no longer start with the warp conduit passive ability, and warp-ins will take 11 seconds when not near a warp gate or nexus. Up from 4. The gravitic drive upgrade now has the added functionality of granting warp prisms the warp conduit passive ability, reducing warp in time from 11 to 4. So, because this is in proposal 2, I think we can agree it's fair to read this as they really like this idea. It's going through. Cats, beastie, right?
Wait, what?
Nice.
No. I don't get it. I'm lost.
Cats is lost. Beastie, did you follow what I said?
Oh, that one's terrible change.
Thank you.
That was a terrible change?
Yeah.
Why? I guess you guys went over it last time. But
because
why?
It's just the statement they have is just so wrong that I don't know where to begin. Like some of these issues, it does a good job at addressing multiple issues in one condensed stroke. It literally doesn't address any issues with the warp prism, which is the pickup range. That's the issue that people have, not the oh wow, there's units.
Okay, well hang on. I misread
Well, I feel like the warp prism does multiple things, right?
Hang on. I misread
it does.
Guys, stop. Actually stop. That is a remove change. So they're not going to do that.
Yeah, but I was so interested in why that was
okay, go ahead then. You want to debate what's not going to happen?
No. It could happen. This could still happen.
Anything can happen to Protoss. You need to understand that.
Yeah, the way this was written was a little confusing because they were like, proposal number 2, we're removing one thing from proposal number 1.
Yeah.
So really, proposal number 2 is just the ones beyond that statement.
I agree. It was weird. Yeah, weird.
A lot of the tone of this is actually in the voice of, here's the beta changes up on the PTR that you can play. So they're in the voice of, okay, we're taking this off of the PTR. This is what's going back up on the PTR. This is version 2. So if people understand the tone of that, it makes it a little bit more.
Aren't they taking away the entire proposed number 1? Or
they're keeping stuff and they're adding stuff onto it. So they remove the prism thing, but they're keeping like stim and EMP thing together with proposal number 2.
I guess that's why it's so weird because it's not proposal number 2. It's like, and then this happens.
Amendments to proposal number 1, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, we cleared that up. So hang on. Let's scroll up here a little bit because they actually did a Zerg one real quick, which is funny. Which does make this bad writing, by the way. I'm sorry. So, yes, at some point, Jeff's stupid. But at the second point, it's also just a weird way to write this. Added changes. Zerg. Overlords. Pneumatized carapace upgrade research cost decreased from 100 to 75. I don't think anyone... I mean, yeah, right? Zerg's happy. That's fine. Pneumatized carapace is the speed upgrade, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
I think to set the context for all of this patch, by the way, there was an outcry of the community that Jeff is going to make fun of because it was about Protoss, right? Being too strong. But then there was actually confirmation from the GSL, right? Because it was like 6 out of 8 in the round of 8. So it was pretty loud, right? And people are like, oh, like, how is this not happening? So all of these changes are proposed and discussed in that climate, right? So these are things about like addressing problems or nerfing Protoss because it seemed like the sensible thing to do. I think a different discussion would be right now because, right now I don't feel like Protoss is as dominant as it was a month ago when everyone was crying about Protoss, or 2 months ago.
I agree.
I agree with that, yeah.
Let me put something out there, by the way. This is going to be a tangent, and with me and without Dan to stop me, my powers are overwhelming, so this is just what we have to do. I'll say this really quick. I've said this on all my platforms, but I don't think I've said it on the Pylon show. One of the most annoying things for me is that every time there's a change, something gets skewed results. Something gross happens. The meta gets completely disrupted, and something is overpowered and very good. Then the meta resettles when people figure out how you're supposed to play against that, and the numbers normalize. But so often, and I'm looking at you, Twitch chat, and everyone that's listening, so often in the time of that skewed period, people complain so furiously that changes begin to get put in place during that time that are then implemented a month or 2 later when it's not needed.
Because they seem like such huge oversights at the time. And I think I can shed some light into this. Like Protoss is by design the techiest race, right? So Protoss has basically the most options as far as like being aggressive or doing whatever they want. Like it's like you have a lot of branches to take, and they rely on surprise a lot. So when changes happen, Protoss happens, and then they can do all these different things, and then everyone's just dying because no one knows how to handle any of them.
Right.
But then as people figure out, like especially at a high level, as people figure out and put each thing in their box, and they're like, oh, to stop this, I should do this, and understand like disadvantages from the Protoss perspective of executing a certain way or cutting certain corners, right? Then it stabilizes a little bit. So I think that Protoss always does get the short end of the stick because they are the tech-oriented race, whereas Zerg is usually reacting to what they do. And Terran's just, throwing stuff at them anyway.
I agree. A funny example, though, because if you use Protoss, there's people that just see red anyway, so the point's going to get kind of lost on them. Look at the Nidus Worm. Remember that like 3-week span of time where they just couldn't lose, and every game was just a Nidus one way or the other, but mostly winning? You know what the nerf was to that happened that fast? Does anyone remember the nerf?
Was it armor reduced?
Yeah,
or?
it went from like it was a minor armor reduction.
Well, it went from invulnerable to armor to the minor armor reduction.
Didn't they give it health as well?
What?
Didn't they give it health as well when they reduced the armor?
Did it? No. I don't
well,
think so.
My point is
5 to 4 or whatever.
The nerf doesn't make the Nidus impossible to do, or it doesn't make it like. Obviously, going from invulnerable to having health and armor is very different, but in that time, it was only Niduses from every Zerg forever, and everyone was like, "This is insane!" And now, you know what gave birth to the Robo First opening? The motherfucking Nidus. People started going Robo First, pumping out an Immortal or two, and then Protosses, in their infinite wisdom, were like, "What if I just make 2 Immortals, and then a bunch of Gateways with no gas, and have 9 Sentries and just try to win from there?" And that brought the next span of shit meta.
Then they added a War Prism. Now
that's going to get nerfed. And it's reactionary because it's just what happens with each thing. So it's just like the Niduses fell off. They did get a slight nerf, or people are like, "That's preposterous. It was such a big nerf. Blah, blah, blah. I can never win with a Nidus again." What level are you? Plat 2. Doesn't matter. I watched at a GM level. Okay, stop. But the point I'm trying to make is like it just happens that way every time. But with Protoss in particular, people are especially. You got about 1 week of that thing working before there's like actual hard changes going in, and there's like a fucking it's the Korean Zergs and Terran, by the way. They pull Blizzard aside and they're like, "You have to make this stop." So if you think I'm overreacting, wait till we scroll down and they talk about zealots. Guys, name me a Marine or Zergling nerf that ever happened.
Oh, no. But stop. This was a zealot buff in the first place.
Cats,
are we talking about the zealot now?
Name me a Marine or Zergling nerf that ever happened.
Did you name me a buff first?
Adrenaline glands.
Right. What? Buff to
Yeah,
Zergling or Marine?
They changed the numbers. They made it
buffed.
better. They made Adrenaline glands better. That was an actual increase.
Yeah, did it?
Cats.
Drones? What do drones have to do with Zerglings of Marine?
Cats? When was the Marine or Zergling nerfed?
Never, Jeff.
Never. Wait until we scroll down. Wait until we scroll down. Okay. Pneumatized Carapace? Did everyone give a shit? I think we're all good. They were talking about scouting.
Yeah, I think Pneumatized Carapace is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I really like it. But yeah, it's in the scope of like what's fair. I'm not sure anymore because of the panorama has shifted.
I have a rant about this whole like a PVZ change. So whenever you want me to go at it, just let me know.
DC, that's why rant away, please.
So this is my problem. I discussed this on my stream, and I don't like this change. Now, I like the change, and I don't like the change at the same time. The pneumatized carapace. I think it's good because I play random. I play all 3 races, and I do think it's hard for Zerg to scout Protoss, and I do think that they should have a way to scout. Now, the problem with this is the only strength, and yes, I'm going to use the only strength of Protoss, is Zerg not knowing what they're doing and 2 base all-ins. I think we can all agree that's where Protoss is the strongest, right? And I think we can all agree that Zerg is the strongest in the late game. So now what Blizzard is doing, they're addressing not only War Prism and Zealots and nerfing that or wanting to nerf that, they're also buffing the Zerg scouting, but nothing is being done for ZVP late game. And that's just not fair at all for Protoss. Because
there is a few changes, I think.
-2 damage on Infested Terrans.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they're not doing that. They're not doing that. They're fixing the bug because the Infested Terrans always dealt full damage and ignored armor. So we've been playing the game for 3 years with infested Terrans ignoring the armor completely.
Same argument you could make about the Oracle, though. Like, this is such a poor argument. Like, it's still in the game.
So they're just fixing the bug. They're not actually.
No, what? No, it's a change. It's a change from what it was. It doesn't matter. You call it a bug or not. That's just semantics, right?
Okay, infested Terrans is one part of the problem with PvZ late game. Neural range is insane. Like, if anyone has played Protoss, I mean, Jeff can confirm this. Like, neural range is so crazy that your units get taken, and in order to kill the infestor, you have to go in range of the infested Terrans, and you either A, lose the unit that got neuraled, or B, you lose the units that are trying to kill the infestor, and then you lose the whole army with that. Two games that come to mind straight away is Neve versus Serral and DNS versus Elaser. The game got to that point of mass infestor, and the Protosses literally had 300 supply versus Zerg's 200, and I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but I heard Serral drop 2 games to Gung Fu Banda on the ladder, so.
Oh no! Let's see. That's the thing. I 100% agree that Protoss 2 base all ends are too strong against Zerg. I 100% agree with that.
Macro, he lost.
Oh,
that's the word on the street.
Okay, I can guarantee it was not in the late game against Mass Infestor. If it is, I will eat a. I'm not gonna eat anything.
Yeah, don't eat it.
I guarantee it's not that.
Don't put your life line with Gung Fu Banda. Yeah.
So my point is, if you nerf Protoss 2 base all lanes, which I do agree against Zerg should be nerfed, you have to fix, buff, nerf Zerg, however you want to look at it, PvZ late game. Because that's not fair. You can't rebalance one part of the game and not the other.
Okay, but there is the infested Terrans being addressed somewhat, right, to some degree. So we can talk about different degrees of addressing it, maybe. But there is addressment to that, right? There's also interceptor buff, I think, build time.
There is.
I think that, in my opinion, the nerf to Protoss is way higher than nerf to Zerg in the late game. It's not on the same level. It's not on the level of, I just won't do 2 base pushes. I'll just go late game.
The infestor is the main issue, huh? The infestor is the main issue.
Yeah. The neural range and the spammability of infested Terrans.
Not fungal? I've heard fungal is pretty nasty too.
No, I think fungal is like the thing that you need, like Storm. I don't think anyone should nerf Storm because that's how the game is. That's how the game has always been. I think that whenever you have a unit that's a spellcaster that's being masked is bad game design. The same thing happened with Ravens, and they got nerfed. So I don't see why Infestor doesn't get the same treatment. It's being masked against both Terran and against both Protoss. And every unit, I think, should have a downside to it, to massing it, or a counter. Infestor does not have a downside to massing it. Okay, there's no unit in the game that straight up counters it.
What if there was like a small radius for feedback, like AoE? It's like kind of like the upgrade to like the Ghosts, the EMP. You know how it's bigger radius now? What if there was an AoE feedback? Would that satisfy?
I think that's a band-aid fix. I think the range of neural is actually the biggest problem, not the infested Terrans.
But you range neural, and it's dangerous too, right? Because then it kind of becomes useless. Like if it can't, what can it grab then?
I mean, okay, then remove it so you can't neural massive units.
Oh,
that kind of gets rid of their point.
Yeah. So how does Zerg win? How does Zerg win if you get rid of that in the late game?
But how does Protoss win now?
Well, that's literally the true discussion, because before the feedback change and the infested Terran change, Protoss late game looked unbeatable. Like this late game thing between these two races has actually gone back and forth quite hard.
I mean, it's always going to be true that in an asymmetric game that one race is going to be stronger than another race at their peak, right? It's just
agreed,
impossible.
Cats. But BC's point is that you're shifting it to Protoss as neither now, whereas they would be strong in early game but weak late game.
You don't have the 2 base, you don't have the late game. I think that, yes, Protoss before was better. That's because of the interceptors. Now interceptors have a counter, right? You kill them and they need to remake, and Protoss has to back off or whatever. Okay. And I think that whenever I think that was one of the biggest changes they've made, right? They made carrier garbage. So I think that nerfing carrier was actually what was needed, because I think massing carriers against Zerg was incredibly easy to use, and it was bad game design, right? And I did agree with the nerf. From 6 to 11 on the Interceptor was too much. I think they should have gone in the middle of the road, and not only that, they should have maybe did something else to help the Protoss in that way until everything stabilizes. Or if they did a massive change to one unit, you can buff another unit to help with what the Protoss will be struggling against. But they just kind of nerfed the carrier and left it where it is, right? They didn't really do anything with that. And we got into a situation where we're at now, where I honestly don't think that Zerg should ever lose at the same skill level with Mass Infestor. We've seen, again, I advise everyone watch Neeb versus Serral. Neeb was like going around trying to poke, dropping the main with DTs, and eventually what always happens, because one of the suggestions people give me always is people can always try to, War Prism and kill the Zerg main. That people do that, and that's a great move to do. But eventually you're going to have to face the army, and you're not going to beat that army. Neeb had 30 gateways where they started trading. He warped in 30 stalkers. He lost those stalkers. He warped 30 more, and he lost to the same army of Serral. And if Neeb not necessarily didn't win, but that looked kind of hopeless. Like he just didn't kill almost anything. Then, yeah, I kind of think there's a problem with that. Okay. Because it's not just one player struggling, or it's not just, try Mass Tempest or try Mass Carrier. People have tried, I feel like, for a long time. People have been trying with disruptors now as well to kill infestors and stuff. And yeah.
Well, Beastie, let me stop your rant there. Jess, any comments about any of that you heard? We haven't heard from you in a minute.
I'm gonna save comments, I guess, for the rest of the balance.
Very good. There will be others. Cats, if I heard you kind of responding a few different ways. Didn't necessarily like what Beastie was saying in terms of his thing, but what would be your ideas? Do you agree that it does shift the balance from the 2 base becomes very weak and the late game for Zerg is favored? And what change
it's difficult to say. I mean, the unit for unit, the Cello change, for example, the charge change, if we were going to that, or should we? Yes, but that's the thing. Then can we discuss one change at a time without discussing the rest?
One change at a time. So pneumatized carapace, Cats, give it to me. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we'll get to the overall. Yeah. Okay. So we're good. I think that's fine. Zerg scouting gets buffed. That's cool. We heard the rant. We'll come back to it. It's not going away forever. Let's scroll down here, though. So this is one of the changes that will be added in. Warp Prism cost increased from 200 to 250 minerals. I feel like this is very similar to the pneumatized carapace in that I don't think anyone super cares. There's not like a hard... there probably is somebody out there that wrote out a spreadsheet of why 200 minerals is way too little and 250 is just perfect. Just there. I know there's people in the camp that it should cost gas as well, which I always think is kind of funny because, again, we're not talking about it costing 200 gas. People are like, I want it to cost 25 or 50. It's like, guys, first of all, 98% of people playing against the Warp Prism, that 25, 50 gas, 100, that's not why you lost, okay? Let's just stop right there. That's 1 century that the guy missed Force Field and died for free. That's not why you lost. At the absolute top tier, yes, it slows things down a little bit. It's maybe the difference between an upgrade. At 1 century in the hands of parting, yeah, okay. You're starting to see a slight effect.
Archon drops get slowed by this, by gas, which is the reason,
I think
again, though, 50 gas? What are we talking? How high do you want to go? 100? Is it 200, 100 gas?
No, I think gas is not a good way because Archon drops are not broken or anything like that, and they're one of the safer ways that Protoss has to open.
And it also only happens at the top level. And I'm going to call this out. Twitch chat, you're all diamond or lower. I know it. You can feel it. Nobody is Archon dropping below fucking GM or pro level. No. Jess. Literally nobody is Archon dropping. Not even well. No, you think so? Do you really?
They're all Cannon
I got some diamond games.
Diamond games are Archon dropping, you think? I'm talking the Archon drop, not minute 26.
They bring it back home immediately, but they try.
Are they trying? Are you guys trying out there? It's so fucking hard to do, dude.
Someone just said they Archon drop in diamond in the chat. So.
All right.
Honestly, Archon Drop is probably the hardest build you can do.
It's one of the hardest things to do.
Like
It is.
Yeah.
But the harder thing is to pick them up as well, to pick them back up.
I
It's
think
hard to drop them, but it's hard to pick them up too. Thank you, Cats.
Pig could do a whole fucking whatever that thing he does, a segment of replays of people in Platinum and Diamond trying to Archon drop build, and that would be comedy gold. I would love that. Okay.
It's like 2-on-1 of Terran against Zerg. It's like, it can be good, but if you try it at a lower level, it just doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
Right. Yeah, I think we've killed the Twitch chat for now. So
no, they're being really honest. I appreciate that. They're all saying, of course, drop.
What we're saying is just do 2 base immortal, 8-gate all-ins. Okay, just don't do Archon drops.
Yeah, just get a Robo for a War Prism. That's it. Charge that.
Funniest thing I will say, this is a complete aside. I had this like 2 weeks where I was like, I'm gonna can rush. I want to learn how to can rush. So I was can rushing people. Every time I hit somebody who was like 4,800, 4,900, 5,000, they were an absolute fucking Greek god at defending cannon rushes. I've never been hit so hard in the face ever. And it's because, and afterwards I'd be like, what the hell was that? And they're like, oh, I get cannon rush all day. I have for the last 5 years. And I'm like, it was amazing. NA ladder, 5,000 MMR. You can't cannon rush those kids, dude. You drop Haz off, he's getting bopped right and left by these guys. So I think, and someone's jump in if you disagree. 200 to 250 minerals. Don't care. Fine. It's a slight nerf. Yes.
It's a slight nerf. Yeah.
I was only gonna say for the gas thing, I think it's more about the feeling of justice. Like, which it doesn't actually matter if it's true or not. It is just the feeling of being like not just the first War Prism, but the next War Prism and the next War Prism, which I actually don't think is a super big problem. So
Jess, that's fine. I would tell you too much justice becomes tyranny. And that's what we're going to do when we scroll down here in a minute. Warp Prism pickup range decreased from 6 to 5. And this is something a lot of people are talking about. This is a pretty big one. And this one, to me, is like... I go into this and I say, nerf the Warp Prism. There's a lot of people complaining about it. Again, I think too early, but whatever.
Oh, no. The Warp Prism has been bad. It has been strong for
since like I said, avoid start.
Yeah.
Pretty strong.
I'm talking about the sensationalism, guys. Hang on here. I'm worried that like several go through. I'm worried the Warp Prism becomes 250 with range 5 that doesn't warp in normally. It warps in 11 seconds till you upgrade it. Right. That Warp Prism is shit. And that is tough.
Yeah.
So if you make it 250, drop the range 1, I'm okay with that. You make it 250, it has slow warping, you have to get the upgrade, I'm okay with that. But if all this shit goes through, then truly there's someone like in a dark room in Korea who sits back and they're like, finally, all the Protosses are gone.
It's dark.
It is dark, right?
Or Sue.
Now I just have to figure out how to defeat that Sero kid from Finland. And then it's ZVZs forever. And Europe, by the way, collapses. That's the first to go. When Protoss is gone and it's ZVZ on ladder all day, every day, and Sero literally switches to Terran to try and make things interesting, that's when StarCraft dies.
Yeah, I think all 3 changes are never gonna go through. And I don't think the first one was like as bad as Beastie thinks. But yeah, I think these 2 are pretty fair. I think they're.
So I hate to do the not 1-by-1 thing, but I kind of have to.
Do it.
This is it's just not the time. Like 6 to 5 doesn't sound like a big deal, but you know how many Protoss players are going to mess up their instincts at Asus Rogue or GSO versus the World, whatever the next tournament is. If this goes through, 250 minerals probably not going to mess up a ton of things.
Right.
But 6 to 5 against Queens with their Archon drop is going to be, I don't want to say devastating, but it's going to require them to literally hammer out nothing but PVZs to get that instinct back. Yep. And I don't like it. Same reason I don't like the Stim upgrade either. I know that was the last one, but we actually are talking about 2 drastic of changes in the middle of a season.
I fully
Is there ever a good time though? Is there
after BlizzCon, which is what they've always done?
Checkmate, Cats. You're off the show.
Home Story Cup doesn't really. Home Story Cup embraces the fact that they're the first tournament to be with new balance matches, and then there's not another tournament until January or February. That's what they've wanted to do. They wanted to make all the big stuff after BlizzCon.
6 to 5. Isn't this also pretty? Not to put my tinfoil hat on and feed Beastie Cutie's endless paranoia, but 6 to 5 again. I'm going to call it and say it. This is a top-tier Protoss nerf, and it's pretty much exclusively Archons in PvZ, and yes, like Immortals in PvP and PvT to some degree. That's it. PvC. Nobody's complaining about a Zealot getting zoinked at range 6. They're not like, oh, I was going to kill that! And then it's gone, right? Like, nobody fucking cares about that. They care about the micro ability of the Archon in PvZ with the Warp Prism and the Immortal and what it can do. So this is a pretty specific nerf. It's a top-tier nerf, and I agree with Jazz. It's disruptive. Like the 250, nah. The Warp-In, that's the all-in, which I don't like the all-in. It's kind of, it goes back to the other builds that I thought made for a shitty meta. I'm not interested when a Protoss just YOLOs across the map with 44 probes and then.
But then we're talking about a completely different change in approach, right? Because what we have right now is gradual change and then big change at BlizzCon, and that's how it's been for a while.
This is not gradual.
I think these are pretty
very
big.
gradual. I mean, they're fairly big, but it still drops compared to like most other games that change anything. Yeah, it's what?
Just
they like introduce like new heroes.
Cats, all your games have 4 proxy hatches and 70 spines. I know, so you don't really see these things in action. But gradual? Have you scrolled down on the sheet? Have you seen what the next one is?
I mean, we're talking about each individual change, right? Like
it's
now
a fundamental.
We're on the prism.
Yeah, we're on the prism there.
Gradual?
I mean, how do you change the prism and gradually then? What's a fair change? Is it
250?
That's it.
Yeah, you could change the warp time or the build time, make it slower. That's another.
That's way more drastic than the range, I think.
Someone suggested changing the transition of the form, making it longer, so you have to choose more heavily between warping in or picking up.
Yeah.
Like I think there's other small changes that can be made. The reason that this one range is so drastic is that now and this happens all the time. 2 queens find the warp prism for a second, brings it down to half hull health. Now that means that the prism's dead. That is probably the most common thing we see with Archon drops. And but like
those situations they would pull. It's a time-based thing, right? The warp prism stays as long as it can while the queens damage it. So it's not like they would just let it die. They would just have to retreat a little bit earlier.
They're trying to get into the drone line most of the time and actually do something more serious than killing not even a creep tumor if their observer is not done.
How many games are ending with 2 Archons just tearing up the Zerg right now and just winning?
Not very many. No, I mean I don't think this is a nerf intended for Archon drops.
I mean, in Diamond League.
What is it intended for, Kat?
Well, I think
it's the Warp Prism. I think the Warp Prism is and has been perceived as one of the strongest units for the longest time now.
Well, yeah, it's a nerf to the Warp Prism, but we're talking about the builds that it's applicable to. So, Katz, I ask you again, what builds is it applicable to, bud?
Pretty much anything I want to say.
Well, I think what really angers people is when they watch 200 Ravagers not kill 3 Immortals, right? Like that's when it feels the strongest.
Sure.
Did I wake up in the Twilight Zone?
Plus all the other things that the Warp Prism can do. Like I sympathize that the Warp Prism is really strong. I am a Terran player that would love if the Warp Prism didn't just instantly warp in my face 16 Zealots. But this is right now what the meta is like an Archon drop. So it sucks that that's effective, but it's not worth neutering because occasionally you get to see like the Immortal Prism juggling that goes on for a little too long.
And it's one of the most exciting micros in the game, I would tell you, right? Like the Archon drop opening is really fun and cool. People are not complaining about it. It's like pretty strong.
Yeah.
But it doesn't kill anybody. It just slows them down. So the Protoss can take a 3rd base and then transition to something else, which right now is just an Immortal push.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, the Archon drop is, I don't think it's particularly strong. Okay. I said this earlier, right? But I think the Warp Prism is a very strong unit. I don't see the issue with looking at Warp Prisms here.
Well, nobody's saying there's an issue. We have an issue with saying it's a strong unit, so let's fucking bury it 7 feet under the ground. Right?
It sounds like we can agree that we want it somehow changed, but what we disagree on is whether it's the right time to do that particular change.
Yeah.
Or that particular change.
Sure. I mean, the transformation thing that you suggested, the transformation time, I actually suggested that as a potential change at some point.
Well, there you
go. The 50 minerals, I also suggested. But I think that when they're looking for bigger solutions, it's hard to blame them. And I think that this discussion can help shape that to a degree, right? Like if they're listening and whatnot. But yeah, again, that's why I mentioned the climate. Like it's really important to understand that when these changes are being made, it's because A, there's an outcry for them, and B, because there's the results to back up an action, right? So I don't think that this is so much a reason to scale back on changes, or that changes should be. I don't know. I'm big on change in general. I think we were talking, for example, earlier about how CVC it's always roach versus roach. So I mean, the way to change that would be to buff something else, for example, right? So are we for change when we don't like the matchup, and not for change elsewhere?
Well, hang on, Cats. I feel like you either misunderstood, or you're getting really philosophical at a time where we're trying to be pretty literal. I don't think anyone's arguing for zero change. They're just saying specific changes might not be good or bad. And that's okay, because being against specific changes doesn't mean you're against any change at all.
Oh, okay. I just thought that the proposition was that BlizzCon would be the time for bigger changes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think one range is, crazy.
It does attack one specific build when I feel like it's so many other things that they've also approached, like the whole like warp in time, right? That really angers people. It's not the Archon drop that angers people, but it will be nerfed even if they accommodate for it. But in exchange, like now you don't get to pick up that immortal that's on the all-in from an extra range. Is that the difference maker there, or would it be better to do the transition thing? Maybe you actually stop from being able to pick up if it's in the warp in mode. Like it just feels like this is a little too pointed towards the Archon drop when there's other things we can do the warp prism for the bigger problems, the other problems with warp prism. Because I agree with you, I think the warp prism is very strong for what it costs and what it does.
BC, you're gonna try to jump in there?
So you guys would all agree then that it's better for the other change, the slower warp-ins than the.
No, that's a terrible one.
Why? Why? What's wrong with that one?
Okay, I'll first respond to this, then I'll go for that. So I think it's silly to even consider implementing like 3 changes to the warp prism. Like they should do one. Yeah, they should do one. I do think the mineral one is just like the Zergs and Terrans are like, oh, cool. The Protosses are like, I guess not that bad. So I don't think it's a big change as far as that goes. I don't think they should add gas value to it. I think people are stuck on the gas value because Overlord drops and Metavacs cause gas. So they're like, well, Protoss one has to cause gas too. And I think that's why people want it for whatever reason, even though it won't change much. As far as pickup range, I personally would go just with that change. I think that is a huge change. I don't think it's a small change, and I think it solves the problems that people are having with the Prism. In PvP, it's a mirror matchup, so it will affect the other player as much as it affects you. In PvT, you don't really see a lot of Archon drops. I mean, maybe you'll see like a Disruptor drop, but it doesn't really rely on having like clutch pickup at the last moment or something like that. And in PvZ, yes, it does suck that it affects Archon drops, which is an opener that does not need a nerf at all. But at the same time, Archon drop never kills opponent or never does damage. And if Archon drop is in range to drop to a mineral line, I feel Zerg already messed up. So having that one extra pickup range, I mean, is that really going to make Protoss, well, now I can't kill 10 drones. You're not supposed to kill 10 drones. You're supposed to make the Zerg or force the Zerg to make more queens, force the units out, kill an Overlord here and there. So yes, it does nerf Archons or Archon drops, but I don't think it's a massive deal because at the highest level, you're not supposed to kill drones with Archons. And in Diamond level, well, they charge a lot or cannon rush, or at least they should. So I think it solves the Immortal issue. I think that the main problem with the charge lot Immortal all ends is because the Immortals are untouchable when a good player micros it. And the issue with this is the unit that deals with the Warp Prism at that stage of the game is the Queen, but the range is always outside of the Queen range. So the Queen cannot interact with the Prism without running into the Zealots. So by having one less range, you're opening up that interaction. And if you want to pick up the Immortals, you can, but you're taking hits from the Queens. So you don't have this infinite juggling backwards And again, we've seen clips of 2 immortals being juggled and killing 15 roaches, and then warping idiot zealots after that. And that's because you can't touch the prison. There's no unit at that point in the game except Queen that can attack it, like unless Ravager hit it. So I think that touches on a point of the juggling and the immortals, because the immortals are immortal. Nothing can touch them unless the Protoss messes up, gets hit by Ravager Biles, or simply doesn't pick up the immortal. Is this going to fix 2-base all-ins? I mean, I don't know. This is one of the changes you're going to have to put in and wait to see how it plays out. But I do think that it will make it a lot weaker, because I do think that the strength of Immortal all-in is the prism juggling. And another thing that happens is sometimes the Zerg defends, they counterattack, and then there's like 4 immortals that are being juggled by 1 prism nonstop. And the Zerg is just like trying to catch up. So limiting the range of the pickup also helps with that. Now, the reason why I think the warp-in is bad is it will completely remove the prism from any kind of early play. No one's going to rush Robo Bay to get, it's not getting the prism good. It's making it so that you have to spend 150. Is it 150, 100 or 150, 150? 150. Yeah, so you're basically investing all that plus the upgrade just to make it what it is now. No one's going to do that. You're going to get it into mid to late game, but why would you ever make a Robo and a Prism when you can just proxy a Pylon and a Gateway? Or just proxy a Pylon, right? So why would you even get a Robo? People are going to start doing, instead of Robo, they're going to start doing Forge, 8-gate, charge lot all-ins. Because the Prism just loses its power completely.
Are they Beastie Cutie? Are they going to make zealots?
Yeah, they are, because what are they going to do? Go late game?
I hate to jump in here, but I think we got to move it along, because Zombie Grub does have a show to do later.
I think those are great points.
This point will probably take a little while, or no time at all. I don't know. The future is open to anything. We scroll down here. We can see this little nugget. And this, to me, is, for those of you that might have studied, like, American politics, there was a famous earmarking on a bill called The Road to Nowhere, where there was really important stuff that needed... I'm going to mess up the details, but it was something along the lines of Alaska needed some really important stuff kind of passed. It was like money to schools and just better things for people. And they're like, sure, but let's attach that... Bridge Nowhere, thank you. But they attached that to a bill that literally had a bridge that would cost millions of dollars. They would go to nowhere. Actually nowhere. It would lead out into the ocean and then just stop. And people were like, what? Why would we do that? So they didn't vote for it. And that was their way to kill that. I look at this. This isn't a bridge to nowhere. This is a bridge to the deepest, darkest depths of hell that I've ever seen in my Protoss life. And if you think I'm being melodramatic, I am. Because that's what I do to make things interesting. But let's put it on screen. Scroll down, Matt. Cobra Venom. Scroll down. Show these people what Blizzard shamelessly is suggesting. Now, as I read this, if you're Cats, if you're a Zerg player, if you're a Terran, if you suggested this shit, raise your fucking hand right now, because you are not my friend. Unfollow, unsub, get out of here.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't me.
I cannot believe human beings went to sleep the night they came up with this idea. I mean, Zealot charge additional impact damage decreased from 8 to 0. After researching charge, Zealot will still retain the ability to always hit a fleeting target at least once.
Okay, so I'll make some arguments on this point, on behalf of this point, I think.
You're brave.
And some of them are also design related. I don't think I'm that brave. So first of all, this would be a revert, because Zealot charge didn't always have the 8 damage.
It had 16.
Okay. What? Oh, that was after they added. They added it to 16, then 8.
Yeah.
But at first.
When did they have 0 damage, Cats? Was that Wings of Liberty?
I don't know. Probably Wings or.
What did they call Wings of Liberty again? Part of the Swarm.
Part of the Swarm, Jessica? I don't know.
That was a great addition too. Was that the time where Protoss was dominating so strongly?
Okay, but here it is. We just recommended that everyone, for example, go the 8-gate zealots, right, in their games instead of trying warp.
said it. I said it's never going to happen, but go ahead.
Yeah, but my point is that Zealots are already like that kind of obnoxious unit that you kind of just warp in and you don't have to do anything. Do you have to do anything, Jeff? With Zealots, like I want to see you justify
what?
Yeah, let's see you defend that.
Go ahead, finish your point. I want to interrupt. Go ahead, please.
I think that's a
that's it. Is it you don't have to do anything?
No. Well, secondly, I think that the values aren't so radical as they seem. Like the unit for unit, which is the most important metric, I think, it affects Zerglings, right? Because Zerglings will not be killed in 2 shots by Zealots now with charge. So that's a dynamic that Zerglings will be introduced in the defense against this sort of all-ins, which I don't think is too crazy.
You have to say it without laughing.
And in CBT, we would have to see like how it really impacts. Like it doesn't actually reduce the number of hits that it takes to kill Marines unless Marines didn't get combat shields and went stim, and they like stim first, So that's on a 1-to-1 basis, which is the most radical areas, right? Because if it removes a unit in 2 shots, that's the most radical that it can be. That's not to say that it has no impact elsewhere, because there are always things healing the Marines, for example, and I guess Zergs have regeneration and such. So it'll definitely have an impact. I just don't think it's as big as it may seem at first, except for Zerglings.
Quick aside, Fearsome says it's weird for us to talk about balance when we're the only ones above 6k MMR. If that were really bothering you, then the entire Twitch chat can just shut the fuck up, because there's absolutely no... I mean... You know what? Sorry. There's 3 people in Twitch chat that are above 5k MMR, so you guys can please talk. Fearsome, I'll see you out. Anyways, Cats, go ahead.
Oh, that was it, I think.
Beastie, do you have a rant, or is it...
So the charge got buffed in Legacy of the Void, right? At the beginning, or late Heart of the Swarm. It was the patch leading into Legacy, right? So it was actually 30 damage.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was the
it was.
It lasted about a week, right?
It lasted longer. I remember those games. It was not fun times. Yeah, they basically charged and hit a unit and killed it. But
it was ridiculous. Yeah.
So I was actually against this when it initially came out, because I didn't think that, because they also buffed the Zealot movement speed, and I didn't think the Zealots needed a buff because they were easy to use, like Kat says, but over time, and we got to this point where so many other units got buffed, you can't just nerf a core unit.
Right. No, that's perfect.
I think that's kind of crazy, because nerfing core units is not a gigantic change. It's like you should do these changes every 5 years. Like these are insane changes that mess up with the game in a lot of ways. And the reason for this, nerfing tier 1 units or buffing them is extremely dangerous, because I like to compare it to Colossus. Buffing or nerfing Colossus, let's say you buff 2 damage. You're buffing 3 or 4 units. You're not buffing 20 Colossus.
Right.
Nerfing Zealots, you're potentially nerfing 200 plus Zealots or 30 Zealots in one army that are going to be made.
Yeah, you're nerfing.
That is a huge change. It's
a direct nerf to compositions and strategies rather than...
Yes, especially when Proto strategy relies on Zealots in all 3 matchups. That is insane. I mean, imagine if they nerfed Zergling health by 5. That's just crazy, right? And I do feel that the Zealot charge damage interacts with a lot of things. I mean, having damage is not always necessarily, well, it will, take one last shot or one more shot. It's, if the Terran stems, if the unit was already weak, it will, if you have 30 Zealots, they all charge, let's say on 10 units. Those 10 units might now survive. And obviously 10 units in a fight is a lot of units, right? What I do like is that the carapace interaction from Zerglings is actually coming back, and I think that's cool. But overall, I think this is a bad change. So basically, the carapace interaction is what Katz mentioned. The Zerglings will no longer be 2-shot with +1. Instead, you're going to, if the Zerg gets carapace upgrade, then the Zealots need 3 shots to kill them. So I think that's cool, and it kind of provides cool interaction of Zerg seeing that the Protoss is going for charge lot based army, then they go carapace. But overall, I think this is a massive nerf, and I don't know about this. I think at this point, I think Zealots are, honestly, they're too strong for how easy they are to use, but they are kind of needed. So, I don't know.
I think that with Protoss, the argument can be made that the core unit is a few units, right? Rather than, like with Zerglings, I think if you nerf the, like if with Zerg, if you nerf the Zergling, then Zerg makes Zerglings every game, and Terran makes Marines pretty much every game. I don't think that Protoss makes quite as many Zealots, like as Jeff, come on, you have Adepts and Stalkers and different, like Sentry Immortals. Like there's many different variations in unit compositions that you can go as Protoss, I think.
Just to give Katz's statement just a little bit of credit, like I think Zealots are pretty major, but there have actually been multiple PVTs that I've seen like Zest get charged and then not even bother warping in extra Zealots.
And you've seen him get Zealots without getting charged, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Zest makes mistakes, but I actually think that sometimes it is, it's decisive, right? Like they want to go for a bunch more Stalkers, and we see some Stalkers actually control the mid game in the matchup. I don't necessarily agree with like Zealots being lesser of a core unit, but just trying to back you up there.
I mean, Adepts and Stalkers are made, but they're very like, they're used for a timing. No one is like, yeah, I'm going to get Glaives instead of Charge, and I'm going to make them whole game. That doesn't happen.
Whereas Zealots are your reinforcements, your go-to reinforcement is what you're saying.
Yeah, always. Like once it passes 100 supply, I don't see any situation where you would not pick Charge over Adept Glaives.
Okay, so again, to reiterate, like all of the propositions that I made are mostly from a design perspective, right? And the values of like how many shots it takes to kill a unit, that is the most important value. I know there is like people healing and people stimming and doing all kinds of drugs in the StarCraft world, right? But for the most part, the one metric that matters the most is removing the units the fastest, right? Like, can we agree on that? So, no?
Removing the unit fastest, how do you...
Like how many shots it takes to kill a unit is more important than, units barely surviving and then dying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the units die faster and that means damage removed from your army, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that the change might be severe. I haven't really tested it out much myself in game. I don't know if you have. But I think it might be not that severe as well,
Well, the thing about this is, unlike War Prism, that directly I feel like influences one part of the game specifically. It obviously influences whole game, but it's no one at 200 supplies like, oh well, if I had one more pickup range, like Jeff said, I would pick up the Zealots. This changes the whole game, and it seems they're doing it for 2 base timings and being a strong harassment unit. And sure, if you want to go with this change, then you need to buff Stalkers or Adepts.
Sure.
And then Zealots will have their own role, and then Stalkers and Adepts can be used with an army. You can't just nerf that big part of the game, but you don't... I mean, you can't just nerf it and then have nothing to back it up.
So again, I think that the panorama where these particular sets of changes are proposed matters for those exact reasons, right? Like, I don't think that the changes will be as severe as we see in either one of these proposals. I don't think so.
Oh, you're saying that what they actually end up doing will be less. I hope so.
I mean, I think so, but that's because the panorama has shifted, has changed.
Let me read this. And I think this was actually brought out from the journal of Charles Manson, a famous criminal from 20 years ago. But he wrote a little thing about Zealots here real quick. Zealots contribute greatly to the power level of Protoss in all matchups, whether they're used in direct engagement or as part of the harassment role in combination with the Warp Prisms. In both these roles, we believe Zealots might be slightly too powerful relative to their costs and control required to use them. Our intention with this change is both to lower the frontal power of the Protoss army and to slightly diminish the strength of the Zealot harassment throughout the game. In PvZ, this change will also allow unupgraded Zerglings the ability to take additional hits from charge lots without +1 ground weapons, allowing them to be much more resilient to charge-based timings, including popular ones that involve Immortals. It would also restore the relationship between weapon-upgraded Zealots and Carapace upgraded Zerglings, an interaction that dates back to the original StarCraft. This is massive, and it's weird to me the way people talk about this, because it's like, they're like, you don't make that many Zealots. Bitch! In all 3 matchups, the Zealot is absolutely massive. And it's either massive in the harass role, where you have nothing else that does that, by the way. If you warp in Stalkers to harass, you can harass with them, and that's great. But if they die, you've actually just invested so much that, and it's very rare for the Stalker to get out that return. It depends on the harass roll. If you're warping them in to harass at minute 9, that's okay. If you warp them at minute 26, they're probably just super dead, and they didn't do anything at all. If you're warping into depths, probably not. Also cost gas again, which sucks away the resources from the Protoss army, which is the most gas-heavy army in the game, sans the Infestor, which is just because they're making 40 of them. The Zealot, and they're like, it doesn't require that much control. This is such a weird fucking comment.
Oh, come on.
The Marine is the most A-moving fucking... Oh, god damn you. Are you kidding me?
Marine.
Or the Zergling. Like... Are we going to talk about them like they're this like pristine scalpel unit?
The Zergling a little bit, sure. The Roach.
I can't believe you guys are fighting me on the Marine. You literally can make 60 of them, and up until GM, you can literally just push them across the map.
Jeff, I want everyone watching right now to imagine the best Zealot micro that you can. Did anyone imagine anything? Like, is there anything like that you can imagine? You just warp them in.
Are we comparing? Okay, so the Marine micro. Let's talk about that. I got 7 of them. Pull back this one. Whoa! Zealot micro. I got 4 of them. Pull back this one. But in Cat's mind, he's like, did you see what the Terran player did?
Okay.
Like,
here,
I could though. Like, it's so true. Imagine Marine micro. You imagine the splits. You imagine the focus fire. You imagine the stutter step.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let me give you guys this argument. Let me give you this guy. Stop. I'm giving you the argument. It's more microable. The Marine is, right?
Yes, absolutely.
At half the cost, and you see it at every stage of the game in most matchups.
Yes.
The Zealot, against half the mass armies in this game, becomes null and void. If they're massing roaches, and you made Zealots, get the fuck out of my game. If they have mass Marines, and you're not backing that up with Colossus or Storm or something else, and you just have Zealots, get the fuck out of my game. And by the way, I just learned, you can micro those Marines now, which is... incredible. Well, you don't need to, but you can.
I mean,
isn't some of this? I feel like some of this rationale from them is actually catered towards the 3 gas build / like all in that's happening against Terrans. That you literally just overwhelm with Zealots, and it seems like one of the easier answers to a lot of the openers that Terran had. I feel like even though they didn't say that specifically, it kind of feels that way. And then they threw in like a PVZ comment because everything else is about PVZ. But I could be wrong. But like,
that's the upgrades. The upgrades is what wins that matchup. It's not just charge lots.
Yeah, I mean,
it's 2/2 Forge.
True.
Okay, so the reason you can't really micro charge lots as well as Marines or Zerglings is because Marines have range and they have stim power.
Cats, I'm giving you the argument. We got to move on. Like, it's fine. Okay. You can micro Marines more, sure. It doesn't matter. That was a weird. I shouldn't have latched down to that. I was trying to make a joke more than anything, just be over the top. The point is, Zealots are absolutely integral. They're huge. They're a big part of this, right? Do we all agree on that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess we're going to take away the Cat's comment where you don't make that many Zealots, and understand you make a lot of Zealots.
I never said that.
Yeah,
it says comparable to the amount of Marines or Lings you make.
You did, yeah.
Which,
yeah.
I mean, sometimes Lings actually seem underused, but that's...
This is just a straight nerf. It's not...
It is.
It's not just like they do some damage with this. They did 8 damage today. If this goes through, it's now 0. So I'm not going to try to sit here and be like that 8 damage is the difference between winning and losing. But like Beastie said, and this is the part that's going over a lot of people's head for some reason, you multiply that by every Zealot you make.
Right.
And then you talk about it situationally as well. So if you don't like the charge lot timing, and there's specific examples against Zerglings, which is weird, I agree with Zombie Grub. Let's talk about the 3-base double forge upgrade against Terran. Is that interesting? No, it's not either. I would be totally okay with that being nerfed. I totally would. But messing with a core fundamental unit that is in every matchup, but that's the thing, by the way. PvP, PvT, PvZ, you make Zealots. It's not actually like situational, like there's adept timings, but otherwise you don't make adepts, or some of these other units that don't really appear in other matchups. You make Zealots in every single matchup. Obviously, it's not a big deal in PvP because you have the same units, but in PvT and PvZ, the mental shift from I don't have to worry about this Zealot thing that was going on, and then you pair that with just straight nerfs, it becomes really bad, you guys. This nerfs 2-base timing attacks, which we all agree should happen, but it also nerfs late game, and they cite harass. What is the Zerg?
Oh, no. They cite Protoss armies as well. I'm pretty sure you read
Sure.
it.
Why did you say no? That's still me. Yeah,
oh,
all the above.
You said, oh, okay. Yeah,
all the above.
Said, you know, you're making it sound like their intention. Like, I think what they wrote is actually pretty decent as far as their intention is concerned. Like, they're accomplishing what they set out to do. If I read that.
Yeah.
Now, is that the right move, or is it too much?
That's what I said, Katz. That's what I said. I said they're nerfing the 2-base time attack and the late game harass. That's all I said, and you said no. Which is literally what they wrote.
Because you said they cite harass. I thought you meant, you know, harass it, like as if they didn't understand.
You're latching onto something, and it's like the penis of a dead pig or something. And I'm like, stop! Just don't eat that part of it. Just it's something else. Okay. If you're gonna nerf the 2-base time attack and late game harass, what fills that void for Protoss at all? Right. What do they come away from this patch and are like, well, now I'll do this other thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Like, we're actually all in kind of agreement that the Protoss is getting hit too hard here. That I also think that they are really missing the point about the late game as well, as VCQD like expanded on.
We haven't gotten to that yet, right?
Well, we're doing it point by point, but he brought it up, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, it is too much. It's also not giving you any alternatives to any other playstyle, right? It's not like they buffed the Colossus and are like, okay, well, they're trying to make Colossus good again, which I'm actually fine if they don't, but just as an example. And it just doesn't feel like it's going to be creating anything interesting. It's just going to be perhaps lengthening the game or just making more Protoss lose. Like, I don't know which one. So
yeah, I think it was intended to nerf Protoss.
Yeah, but it's too much, right? Especially for, again, the mid-season. Like, maybe you're right, the charge lot nerf doesn't do anything and everyone's happy with it. But maybe it does a heck of a lot, which I think it would, and it completely changes a lot of these openers and mid-game plays that Protoss are using.
Well, I would just cite what it says, which is what Kat says you agree with, right? So it's going to nerf 2-base timing attacks, and it's going to nerf late-game harass, right? That's what it says it wants to do. How can anyone reasonably say, like, that's huge? I'm totally okay with one or the other, right? Like, I'm okay with something nerfing a 2-base timing attack that's lame for the meta. Or I'm okay with them nerfing cheap late-game harass with a unit that you don't have to control that much. That would be okay too, right? Like, I don't think anyone looks at that and says, well, I really think I don't want more micro. Like, no, I get that. But when in one paragraph, you're nerfing all of that, and then you don't follow it up with something like, we think Protoss can now rely on this new strategy with this buff that we're giving them, you're just saying, I want less of that. So what happens, guys? It's 2-base all-ins exclusively, minus the Zealot, minus the War Prison, or plus the Zealot, but just less effective. It's not like Protoss looks at this and goes, well, I'm now a late-game Protoss. I have 9-second interceptors. They don't, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. I think this is fine change if you buff something else, but if you just leave it unchanged, it's terrible change. Like, you're not, like, what is Protoss supposed to do? Like, you think they're going to go Stalker-based armies? They're not. I mean, it's tried before. Zealot's better. And I'm pretty sure even after the nerf, Zealot will still be the best option, except it will just be way worse. So, yeah. I would like to see them buffing something else. I don't know what, if they do plan to go with this change, but a little too much.
Sure.
We can't really think of any alternatives.
Well, that's where I was emphatic for dramatic level of effect. I'll try to dial it back here, but like, that's the part of this that I do feel targeted, almost as a Protoss player, right? Like, there's a lot of Protoss hate, and of course we talked about that. We don't need to go back down that path. But my point is, you look at this, and it's not exciting for Protoss. Nothing.
Right.
2 seconds back to our interceptors. Nobody is over the moon about that. Nobody wants the carry to be much better. That's the thing, by the way, right? When the Protoss was too good, it was shitty. You made like 8 of them, and they were just, well, I don't know. I guess I win now. What does the Zerg and Terran do about this? But then you nerf them into oblivion without giving something else, and then the game started to get swingy. So then the Protoss was like, we have to all in. And now we have this garbage all-in meta because the late game's too strong. And then this patch comes out where they're like, all right.
Yeah. I think they all, like you guys talked about it in the beginning, they kind of missed the boat on the whole like PBT issues that were risen. Like I think actually one of the best matchups of summer was PBT. I'm certain there's still problems and Terran pros are going to be really mad, but like they kind of missed the boat on that. It is a lot about this EVP issue, and I think it does have to do with that late game, which means that they should probably hone in more on that and making it interesting somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But what like that's we're literally the people who are like, I hate that commentator. Okay, why? Because this. Okay, what should I do better? I don't know.
Yeah.
like and we don't look very good for that. But I would at the end of the day, if they were like, what do you want us to do? Just not do anything? I'd be like, maybe. Like it sucks that ZVP isn't, and not just like for the Zerg or for the Protoss either way, like which when they're losing late game or mid game. It also sucks to watch. PvP is back to being that really boring matchup, just like late Heart of the Swarm.
Right. I do not disagree with that at all.
But it also is like the suggestions you have are just going to make everything slightly worse. And like I am terrified of there being more late game ZVPs reserved just masses infestors. That is definitely what I'm most terrified of. Not of Terrans having a more dynamic early game, mid game, or whatever versus Protoss.
It makes for a lame game, right? Like it's just the Protoss like trying to find a hole and the Zerg's just absolutely not attacking.
Yeah. But I think we're all kind of stuck saying, like, do we have any really good ideas? Like, what unit would make this more interesting?
It shows the overall difficulty of StarCraft in general, because I think one of the big things that people did say back in the day, and I don't even mean like way back in the day, I just mean a year ago or whatever, is make gateway units stronger. And they nerfed Colossus, and they nerfed a few things, and then gateway units got a little bit stronger. We messed around with warp gate timings, that kind of stuff. But I fully agree, the PvT meta of really fast 3 bases, double forge, 3 gases, just pure charge lot stalker, that's stupid too, right? Like that's...
It can be. I think a lot of Terrans have adapted to do somewhat okay against it, but
well, they're like attacking before, right?
That was also one of those things that was like the better of 2 bad options almost. Like I definitely prefer them buffing gateway units over having nothing but Colossus openers and stuff. But,
yeah, that was garbage. Like 9 Colossus in every matchup.
Yeah, or really slow, like, 2 base, like Turtle and the 3. Like, I definitely prefer like this mass charge lot thing, even though deep down I want to be like, hell yeah, nerf the Warp Prism in the charge lots. Like I actually watch the TVPs and I know it's frustrating for both sides.
Yeah.
But I also think it's really interesting.
Well, I will put it, I mean, we can keep talking about this, it's not over, but like just put it to the chat. Like if you're listening to this on YouTube, give us some comments. Because I fully agree. I'm not, I'm sitting here all righteous, right? But I don't have any ideas. I'm not sitting here being like, this is what clearly you have to do. No, it's a really tough equation. So I was, obviously Charles Manson didn't write this, I joke. They're working on it, they're trying, and I think it's really cool that they're experimenting. And on a just philosophical level, I do like that they're willing to do some crazy shit, right? Like messing with the Zell, in my opinion, is very crazy. But it's nice that it's not completely off the table, I guess is what I'm saying, is like a conceptual thing. I just feel very strongly that if you slide across like 6 nerfs, it's like very extensive, right? Like it's the Warp Prism, the Zealot, it's some pretty big stuff. And then you don't pair that with, here's this direction we want to push you and we think it's more exciting. And nobody has any idea what the meta looks like after, but they have bad feelings. That's a tough sell to me. I have a very tough time being like, this is good. Like, this is a slap to the entire Protoss race, right?
Yeah, that was what the patch was intended to be, I think, right? Like, scaling down the Protoss race.
But I feel like just, I mean, and tell me if you think I'm wrong. I just feel like strategically, just on a marketing level, you want to pair that with some kind of buff. You want something to be exciting. And 2 seconds off on the Interceptor, which was already massively nerfed, is not it.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, like so many times, like literally when expansions were coming out, these are main points, that it's cooler if everything is buffed than if everything is nerfed. People compared it to Brood War, where like every unit felt overpowered, but luckily there was another overpowered unit on the other side.
That was the balance, was how powerful things were.
So it makes sense that everyone just kind of gets like dragged down a bit when they're like, well, that's a bunch of nerfs. Like,
yeah, I agree.
He does fix magically everything, but now I don't feel as cool. And it's like, back to the hardcore versus casual thing. But yeah, it doesn't feel like it's going to fix the interesting part of the matchups.
Yeah,
that's fair.
We are missing Dan's calm, soothing voice here to remind me that I need to not be full state of the game all the time, but he's in China. So we'll have to get his comments later. Do you guys have any final remarks on this or anything? Are we good?
Are we talking about late game or no?
Yeah. No, anything. This patch.
I think that
Wait, was that it? That was it?
Oh, the end of the patch notes?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that's the patch notes.
Yeah, it just says go play it on the PTR now.
I think the problem with late game units being strong, when for whatever race, it forces the meta game to be, well, if I just hold on to the late game, I'll be good. This happened before with Ravens in Heart of the Swarm when Mech was played. I just need to survive to Ravens, I'll just camp. And I feel like the history is repeating itself. And I think that forces a lot of the units from the other races to not be used because you're skipping a lot of tech. So if Zerg goes Lingbane Hydra into Fast Hive, then why would Protoss make, Adepts or Colossus when by the time they get Colossus, there's already Broodlords out? And I think that teching that fast into the late game while still holding off everything kind of makes a lot of units useless. Because I do think that, for example, having Colossus Lingbane Hydra is not the worst thing, right? But if they see that you're going Colossus, they're going to rush Broodlords because they know you're not going to attack until you have, 4 or 5 Colossus. And by then they're going to have, 15 Corruptors, which they're going to use for Broodlords to actually just, kill you with. So I do feel that's an issue, and that becomes from, again, if I get to this unit, I'll win the game. So a lot of tech is being skipped. A lot of stuff is being rushed. There's no, I'll go Lurkers because Protoss is doing this. It's more like my playstyle is either Lurker, Ling, Hydra, or it's Lurker, or it's Ling, Bane, Hydra. There's no reasoning why they do it. It's about playstyle. No one sees something and they're like, oh, Lurker then would be great, right? They usually have that pre-game, and I think that's kind of maybe lost over time.
What do you attribute that to? How fast-paced the game is, or
I think yes. So actually, about a year and a half ago, O Gaming threw down a tournament that was in Legacy of the Void patch with 6 workers.
Yes,
and it was actually amazing. The reason for this is, and again, I was one of the people that wanted, and I thought that 12 worker start was great and amazing for the game, and it eliminated that boring early game.
Yeah.
And I was 100% for it. Now, when I played that tournament, what I realized is we lost a lot of the early game. It's completely gone. So, for example, now when you do I'll use TVP, for example, because I played Terran in that tournament. So, for example, you would drop medevac right now with Widowmine. You drop it, you go home, and you're already pushing out, right? Or the Protoss is counterattacking. There's no, oh, I can go for a redrop, or, I'm going to do this, I'll do that. There's no time. Like, you got to do the next step, which is either get a third, or you're pushing, or you're getting pushed. Nothing in between. While when I did that tournament, I felt like I was microing that one drop for like 3 minutes. Because the economy was so slow, yes, I did want to go for a push, but that push was arriving like 5 minutes later. So I had so much time to play with that drop. And Protoss didn't have Blink the moment I arrived. They had it a minute and a half later. And there was just more time for all the units to kind of shine through. And it kind of, I took a step back because, again, I was one of the people that was against Legacy Heroic economy. But I got to ask myself, was that good at the end? Because right now, and I think this is the Zerg economy benefited from this the most, because you can make multiple workers from a hatchery to just kind of pop off one economy and then just go hive and mass units, right? And I feel that the economy change contributed to rushing late game a lot, because in Wings of Liberty, people also rush for Broodlords, but it felt like you could do more from the time that the lair finishes to the time that Broodlords come. It felt like you could do a lot of pushes, a lot of drops,
You can cut more corners, right? Earlier, you have the option to, and that makes it so that scouting becomes more relevant. And
because I feel in Legacy, it's like, oh my god, I didn't see Hive. Oh, I'm dead. Like there's Broodlords, right? Or there's whatever tier 3 tech, right? Not necessarily just Broodlords. And it feels that in Legacy, if you see Hive, it's already too late. You have to attack, right? You either transition into tier 3 units yourself, or you have to attack, and we all know that attack is very all-in because you're massing units that are not going to be great against Broodlords, right? So you either kill them, or you're going to put yourself extremely far behind. And this is exactly what's happening in PvZ. You see Chargelot, Immortal Archon for 3 base, and they go for the push. A lot of people are like, oh my god, why are they doing the push? There's so many Bins and Hydras. Because they saw Hive, and they know what's coming. And if the Hive hits, the Broodlord hit, then their Zealot Immortal Archon unit comp becomes completely useless because the Broodlord is what counters that. But if there's more time for the Zealot Immortal Archon to shine, there's a lot more gameplay. The Zerg actually has to mass units, and they can't really skip corners. And even if you saw the Hive, it's not, oh wow, they're gonna mass 15 Broodlords. Because if you guys remember in Wings, and this is a long time ago, no one ever made 15 Broodlords in one go, or 10 Infestors. It was like, production tab was like 2 Infestors, 1 Infestor, 1 Infestor. There was never insane amount of units at once because you actually needed to make units throughout the whole game to survive. Right. And I think this plays a huge part because of the economy and the way the 12 workers is and how it is right now. And this kind of, when I did that tournament, it kind of influenced all the matchups. I remember TVZ, I would harass with Hellions, and I'd be like, oh my god, he's probably already at lair. And I look, and his natural is not even saturated. But you're already with Hellions there. So it just plays out completely differently.
No, definitely. I think that there's other routes as well, but I'm not sure that the economy is being looked at. I wish if there was a bigger ask for it. I think that you bring up great points. There was an article on Team Liquid on 2015, a treatise on the economy of StarCraft 2, it's called, that I linked, Matt, if you want to throw it up really fast. But what it proposes is basically to remove double worker saturation on minerals, which does something similar, right? So it makes it so that only one worker can find a mineral at a time, and it's exactly. And then the game feels more spaced out, right?
I actually do think that, I mean, not necessarily it's needed, because a lot of people would be against it because that's not what Legacy of the Void is. But I would actually love that because, again, I feel a lot of units are lost because of guys, we're skipping hatchery and lair tech or tier 1 and tier 3 units as far as focusing on those units, right? Like, no one goes, I'm going to open siege tanks and I'm going to open widow mines. No, you either make 2 tanks into widow mines or you make tanks whole game. There's no back and forth. This happened with Link Bane Muta in Heart of the Swarm. If you guys remember, you would open with tanks, and then you see there's mutas, and then you see Thors and widow mines come out, and then it kind of has this natural transition. And then the Zerg is, making mutas, denying drops, going to Hive. Terran sees it, and then have more time to react to it.
So guys, I got to be the bad guy. Got to move us along. I do apologize. I actually really enjoy this, and one of my favorite things about Cats is he'll always play the devil's advocate or just share his differing opinions. And one of my favorite things about Beastie is that he can talk about anything for forever. I love it. So thank you guys.
True.
But we do have to move along. It's been 2 hours or so and some change, and Zombie Grub has like a 17-hour show to do here in a little bit. So we gotta get it moving.
17-hour?
No, I'm just teasing. It's like she's doing some D&D later. But if you guys, like I said, just putting it out there again, if you like this conversation, hit up these guys' Twitters, of course, but just make comments in the YouTube section. Maybe these guys will peruse there and interact with you. Certainly I will, and absolutely Artosis will not, so do not respond.
On Reddit, discuss stuff like this on Reddit, like propose, say, what about economic?
Yeah, talk about it on Reddit, but more interestingly, I think rate who you like the most, of course, with me starting at the least, and just kind of generally put us on display. But we actually don't have time to do these other topics, I think, Cobra, unfortunately, because we do have to wrap this up in about 30 minutes, right, Zombie Grub? Does that work for you?
We have an hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Okay, we got one more Beastie Cutie segment then. No, just kidding. We'll do these 2 topics real quick. Sorry, Matt. We can maybe show your clips at the end or something like that. But you guys had put some topics forward, so we'll try to speed through these and then get through the rest of the show. Streamers/content creators as a business in 2019. You are your own biz, and personal brand is everything. Who submitted that one?
Not me.
No.
Nobody did.
I thought it was Cobra.
Cobra did?
That would be me putting up topics. Yep.
Ah, okay. Well, I guess we'll just field it real quick because you guys are all your own personalities and brands, I guess. We have talked about this topic a little bit, so we will try to keep it pretty brief. But just your general thoughts, I guess, on being content creators as a business in 2019, utilizing social media, that kind of stuff. What if some of the wisdom stuff you guys can pass on, perhaps? I know, Cats, you play all kinds of different games. You own a team. You've done a lot, man. I think this topic comes up every time you're on a show.
Yeah, organize yourself, I guess, is the best thing that you can do, right? Like if you're doing your own thing, and that's kind of where the world seems to be moving towards, right? Like there's a lot of like huge corporation that owns, like in this case, we're like under streamers, the Twitch umbrella, or under another umbrella, but you're ultimately working for yourself. And this happens more and more and more. And as automation becomes more of a thing, it'll keep happening more and more because jobs get more creative, essentially. So
yeah.
Everyone's gonna eventually transition to something like this, I think, and yeah, be organized, right? Like have structure. Like I am horrible at that, so take my advice. I'm not using it, Well, I'm trying to now. I'm doing a lot of things better now, but yeah, that's very important, like routine and trying to stay on course and have goals. And
yeah, it's people use the term grind a lot, but I think that gets taken almost like negatively. But I think the part of that is super true for streamers in particular is you just have to work really hard, and you're kind of a lot of people assume that you just like stream a video game for 4 or 5, 6 hours a day and then you're done. But I think every streamer will tell you like most of the work's done after that. Actually, like you have to make videos and manage YouTube, and BC knows about that, and run tournaments like Zombie Grub did, or get your name out there as a commentator or host, and that takes networking and communicating, and it's a whole bunch of different hats, I suppose, and you're kind of constantly managing all of those.
Mm-hmm.
One of the pieces of advice I would give, I guess, is I found, and this is actually going to segue, not that we need to necessarily right away, but the next topic's all about this, but just doing your job all the time and just constantly trying to promote and build content and collaborate and make connections and talk to people. If you are only doing that, it can create a really unhealthy lifestyle, I find, too, because there's a lot of rejection, a lot of negativity, a lot of anxiety that just kind of constantly sits on you. You're just worried and waiting for an answer. Doing things like getting outside, socializing, eating the right food, exercising, all that stuff is actually huge. And I know that's such a weird thing to say because everyone's like, I saw G.I. Joes in the early 90s. Okay, I know about it. You're going to tell me to eat an apple, too. But it's actually super important as streamers because our job is very stagnant. You're sitting in a chair all the time and you're in front of a screen. And if you just really grind, it's like 15 hours of that a day. That'll kill you.
Yeah. It's I'm gonna take a different direction, but yeah, just like everything's correct there. It's like I'm never not working, which is like one of those things that I didn't want to do the bench tournament anymore, because at least when I'm not on camera, I can kind of do whatever, right? I take being on camera very, very seriously. Like I think it's actually a huge drain, even if it is just a stream, even just like a just talking stream. But I'm gonna take a different direction. It's something I've thought about a lot, and I think this is a good opportunity to bring it up. But like the branding thing specifically, I think is sometimes either overlooked or reduced to just literally the logo and your physical branding, like the graphics and whatnot. When I've actually like really struggled in the last year or so about branding myself, like as a commentator, for instance. The amount that we actually have to push an angle with ourselves is actually kind of insane to get the point across. We can do a lot of things that are analytical, for instance, like I'll just make this about me. They're analytical, but it doesn't matter if we're not saying zombie grub analysis every day, videos of everything. If I don't literally go up to people and I'm like, yeah, I'm an analyst, and like that's what I do. It's so uncomfortable though, because I don't want to be like, yeah, I know everything. I'm an analyst.
Yes.
What I do. But you actually have to do that, or people just kind of don't remember your role.
Yeah.
And you do kind of just become blah. So it's been like a real struggle trying to truly brand yourself, to really get this idea of your name, either online or real name, out there in people's minds as something more than just that person that does that thing sometimes.
It is
right,
so,
like a
such
more
a good point.
direct, strong association with the person, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I feel like actually Beastie Cutie did a really great job with this. I mean, not to put words in your mouth or tell your own story, but I feel like you went from a player that was cool to watch, fun guy to watch, to actually pushing like your stream and your YouTube. And a lot of people do that. And then I'm like, it's not going to last. Like,
right.
Is it really going to do
they
a
don't
whole
seem
lot?
Committed to it.
Yeah, but you actually really committed a lot. And then you actually started to like really push your YouTube a lot. And I feel like you did an excellent job of branding yourself as someone people can go to for high level gameplay for every single race and have consistent, content and stuff like that. But it's really hard to do, and sometimes it's really uncomfortable to do as well.
Oh my god. Not to make it a pity party. My funniest experience with this is like, I'm literally hired, not explicitly, but it'll come out in like social events or whatever. Like, people that hire me, they'll be like, hey, you're there to be funny, to be wild, and to put to make it a little bit exciting and different, I guess. I'm not there for my deep analysis. I'm not there for my incredible shouting style of commentary. But it's been funny as an experience just watching that brand take its own life, because then the way people talk about me, they'll be like, I love Jeff, he makes good jokes, but I just wish somebody that knew StarCraft better would be in his spot sometimes. And I'm like, what? Like this gets shared. It's all the time. They're like, Jeff's a funny guy, but it's sad because I think he hasn't hit GM in like 4 years, so he's like Diamond 2 or something like that, I guess. And he's a funny guy, but I prefer a Muslim, a Muslim or a Todd, at least a Todd, who I think he was a pro gamer in Warcraft 3. I'm like reading these comments, I'm like, I'm not gonna say anything, I'm not gonna jump in and be like, bah! It's just funny. So that brand thing. So then sometimes when I'm, the last year or two on commentaries, I try to do some deep dives on Protoss, and then people will be like, that made some sense. That's incredible. I mean, I'm gold 3, but like the way he said that, I can hear the old GM in him. It's amazing. It's like, God damn it! I stream 6 hours a day. I'm on GM all the time. Fuck. Yeah. But that's that branding thing, right? Because I'm the funny guy.
Yeah. And like what you said, the last thing as well is like, it is amazing how many people still comment to like all of our channels. I'm sure this happens to all of us. And they'll say something that we think is so painfully obvious. Like, yes, I'm GM. Yes, I'm Masters. Yes, right. I'm Terran. How many people think I'm still Zerg after like 7 years of not being Zerg? Because I literally don't do enough like, Terran, that's me. Terran, that's me. Because it doesn't feel natural. But we all we're our own products, and to a degree, we kind of have to be like, we have to exaggerate, even if it feels like you're being overconfident or you're selling yourself too much. The whole point is you're supposed to be selling yourself,
or like boxing yourself in a little bit.
There's also the risk of boxing yourself in for sure. Like that could be a risk of like too hardcore branding. Like if Pig just says an analyst, is anyone ever going to hire from a play-by-play role? I mean, it's not clear cut like that, but that could be a problem. But even worse, a problem is just being the blah person that's over there.
Yeah,
sure.
For me, so first of all, thank you, Zamira. For me personally, when I started out, I kind of thought of what I wanted to do, and my girlfriend suggested, like, why don't you make a YouTube channel? I was like, I don't know anything about it. Like, I have no idea how to upload a video. I don't know how to edit a video. And she's like, well, just try it. So I did, and it started with, let's do it for fun, and then I kind of got into it. And the first year and a half, I was doing 14, 15 hours every single day.
Holy
I missed like one video upload in the past 2 years and 2 months. And I've been streaming for, like 5 to 8, 9 hours every day. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of grinding. And it's one of those things people, like Jeff said, people think you log in, you play a couple of games, copy paste upload, and you're done with your day. It's a lot more than that, especially when you do everything yourself at the beginning. I had no idea how to edit videos, so I had to learn all of that. Like I was watching many YouTube videos, like oh, let's edit. And then I'm like, oh, how do I do this? Back to YouTube, you know, checking everything out. I do think branding is extremely important. I'm not too into like social media because I feel that StarCraft 2 people are not in social media. People are older. I think it's somewhat important, but not extremely necessary. The advice that I have for people that maybe want to get into streaming or YouTube, never do something that other people are doing, because what you will do is a worse job than someone else is. So if you are, you know, trying to just be a random player, there are other random players. You're not doing anything special, right? If you're trying to, I don't know, cannon rush, there are other people that cannon rush. So you got to figure out something on your own, something that fits you and something that kind of makes you different.
A warning? Is this a warning to Balloon?
No. I'm gonna do a show match against Balloon soon, and he's gonna pop. But anyway, so I think it's extremely important to do your own thing and to find your own thing. And in the beginning, you kind of have to take a little time and think about what you want to do, right? You want to think, what kind of streamer, what kind of YouTuber, what kind of personality do I want to be? And you kind of have to hone on that, and then you have to overdo it a little bit. Otherwise, like Zombie upset, you have to sell yourself. So once I started doing that, I received a lot of backlash, like a lot of hate, whether it was on forums, whether it was on other people's channels, other streamers.
Yeah.
And like there was for a while, I actually wanted to quit, but I was like, you know, it's going to turn around, it's going to get better, because you kind of have to go through that. And eventually it did get better. And I mean, I realized that something that I don't know where I read it, but you should never try to change opinion of people that hate you. You should just do a better job of doing what you're doing for people that love what you're doing, right? You should never, you know, if there's some guy that's like, fuck you, like I hate whatever you do, you're so annoying, I just banned him. Like, I don't care. I'm not going to change your mind. You know, if that's your stance, that's fine with me. And I think that's the best thing you can do. And I think you should do your own thing no matter what people say. Because if I listened to people, I would have quit a long time ago, or I would have made, you know, much more boring content. So yeah, I think just find what you like, find something different, focus on it, and, you know, just go with it.
Okay.
You have to do a lot of work, because if you're, for example, doing the same thing as other people, you have to do a better job at it. So you have to do a lot more in order for that to succeed.
And I think, Cobra, if you want to show the YouTube channel here, one of the things I like about this is that your header actually takes Zombie Rub's advice, and even you talked about this, but like it says, StarCraft 2 pro player, right? I think StarCraft people shy away from, like, we're kind of afraid of, like, complimenting ourselves, because we're just I'm speaking in generalities, of course, but I think a lot of us are mostly humble people on some level. But with this kind of stuff, as a streamer, as a YouTuber, all that, you got to go bold. So he's like, StarCraft 2 pro player. Love it. So that means, like, when you go to this channel, you're like, all right, this guy knows his shit. Got a bunch of videos. And check it out. Whereas if he just was like, StarCraft 2 streamer, or I play the StarCraft.
Yeah, that doesn't, you know. Like, I actually receive a lot of hate for when I put, like, #1 random player. People are like, oh, well, this person plays this race. I'm like, yeah, but that person's not a random player. And I always say, I'll play against anyone in, you know, random versus random in all matchups. I don't mind that. You know, I'm not the kind of person that's going to be like, oh, I'm rank 1. And they're like, I'll play against this guy. Oh, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm open to playing anyone. And I think that's part of what you are, you know, kind of showing yourself as, and to go with it. And I think it's very important to kind of let go. I think my channel started growing a lot when you kind of let go and stop caring what people think, and just do your own thing. Like, just be yourself. And some people will love it, some people will hate it, but that's just how it is. Because I think that if you are public persona of whether you spend an hour streaming, 5, 10, the longer you do it, your true personality will come out. So just do it straight away, and people will like it or hate it. Like, you're not going to be, you know, hiding it for years. That's just not how it's going to work.
Well, I like that. A lot of wisdom shared there. I know that we all can say more, but again, I'm the bad guy. I'm sorry. We got to move it along to the next topic so we can end the show. But good advice there. And again, I encourage everyone to interact in the Discord or on the YouTube and let us know what you think. Unless it's that you don't like Beastie Cutie, in which case I will ban you. I will ban you. That's my boy. All right, next topic. Kind of similar, actually, but I like this. This is a great group for this one. The effects of workouts and diet upon performance in StarCraft 2 and pro gaming. We made our introductions earlier on, and I kind of made jokes about it, but it's actually very, very real. Katz has always been sharing his journey with health and how it's paired with being a gamer. And Zombie Grub has as well. That's something that she talks a lot about in her own community, but she's doing that 30-day challenge. And there's Beastie Cutie. It's from Serbia. What can you do? But honestly, I'm just kidding. But let's just talk about this topic real quick, and then we'll get to the end of the show. Again, the topic's just the importance of this, and maybe if you guys can share something you found about that. And I'll actually start with Beastie Cutie, because I don't know. Beastie Cutie, is this something that you work on at all, you think about? Is that a part of your professional angle?
For food, I'm not trying to limit myself too much. Like, I don't really drink sodas or like eat cakes almost at all. So I guess somewhat healthy. I don't know. I try not to take a lot of sugar in. As far as workout, I am not disciplined as far as that goes. So I have periods where I'll work out for 3 months and then I'm not going to work out for 3 months. And I actually definitely feel better when I do work out. Mm-hmm. I feel more upbeat. I generally feel happier. And I just feel more energized. I'm ready to get out of bed straight in the morning. I'm not lazing out. You just feel fit and you feel better. And I think that, being a streamer, you're not going to necessarily show off your body right on stream, but yourself being confident because you're fit is going to kind of shine through on stream as well.
Okay. Katz, this is something you've talked up and down about for a while.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really exercise all that much for years. A lot of that, I think my parents did a really bad job of selling me into exercising.
Your parents, you said?
Yeah, they were bad at it. They're great at parenting in general, but in this realm, like my dad was exercise all the time, but their arguments were just really weak. They were like, "Oh, you'll live longer," and it's like, okay, yeah. But if they had told me like, "Hey, like running actually produces brain cells," I'd be like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna go run a little bit more," and it's just like he said, you have more energy and it just feels better. But I think that the younger you are, the more energy you have also just by default. So I think that part can kind of be overlooked, like depending, where you sit in your life. But yeah, I mean, exercising I think is great. I think right now I'm doing the keto diet. I do want to look better, but also feel better. So I'm after those effects.
So I'll jump in real quick before I throw to Jess. But this is I'll take a slightly different angle. I've always, of course, been into like powerlifting and being strong and something like that. So it's just been a part of my identity. But specifically, you go back as far as the EG house, but even just till now, I find this job, or at least a lot of gaming. So maybe if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm not a professional streamer or gamer, so this doesn't relate to me. But maybe you play 5-6 hours of video games a day, or you work a desk job or something like that. And again, this is not new news, but I'll just share my story. Just like if something happens even outside of that. So this job can be very like walls closing in. It can be tough. Traveling in general is something I think you have like a finite tank of enjoyment for that. I've been traveling so much over the years that I dread it. I hate it for the most part. I like when I get to places, but I hate airports and I hate airplanes. And I hate sitting next to someone that didn't shower that week, or is just openly actually farting. Like that all really sucks. But if I just do all that and then like something depressing happens to me, like a breakup or a death in the family, or you suffer an injury or something like that, that all combined into one will just slide you right into like a depression, or at least it'll slide you into a more stagnant lifestyle. That's the other part of this that we don't talk that much about, but like it can become easy because you're sad or upset to go to your comfort zone, which is sitting in front of this computer and playing StarCraft. I've done that my whole life. And if you just stack on weeks on weeks on weeks of just straight doing that, and you don't socialize, get out and do things, you'll just be like, I feel like shit. And a lot of times you can get into this tunnel vision situation where you're not thinking to yourself, whoa, it's because I haven't really been doing stuff and going outside, or I'm not exercising. You'll mostly just be like, the world's shit. That person's shit. I hate my job. I don't like this. This game's broken and frustrating. it'll start to like have tendrils that go out into everything you do and think and see. And it really, I just have to be again, I think my parents too, I was raised just to be like, just to encourage to just go do stuff, like just do different things. And exercise has always been one of those ones that like, when I played football, it was great to have someone be like, keep running, you shit. And I'd be like, well, I'm going to keep running. He seems mad. But then when you're by yourself, I'm like, I'm going to stop running because I'm tired. And I think it's okay to do that. But it's so fun to enhance your life with a routine that includes you feeling like you did something. And then those tendrils go out, and you're like, well, I got my workout in, or I've had 6 great workouts. So guess what? That person's not so shitty. This job, that part sucked, but I can deal with it. I have a flight coming up. All right, well, I'm pretty, I'm fit. At least I won't be gassed going through the airport or something like that. It starts to actually bleed out into other things the same way that negativity does. And I find that to be huge. Because like I said, this job in particular, or at least just lots of gaming, it just has this way of focusing you down into stagnation, which then deteriorates into everything. So even if you're hearing this, you're like, well, I'm never going to have a 6-pack, so fuck working out. Bro, I'm never going to have a 6-pack either. I've proudly got a 1, sometimes a 2-pack. But I want to be really strong, and the way I feel when I work out means that I'm able to handle the shit that comes my way. Like when you have a festering, infected abscess on your crotch, that can just tank you, man. You can be like, I'm dead. But instead, I was like, I felt pretty good because I was taking care of myself and I was able to handle that. And that's where it goes.
I mean, that's not so much on the proposed subject, but that is where I feel strongest as well. I think that what it can do for your mental health, exercise, stress it creates the opportunity for a release, right? You're always going to win at exercising. So the more challenge you give yourself, the better it feels afterwards. It's like you go there, going there is a win, is my point, like to exercise, do as much as you can, like do what you can do. But that's gonna be a win in your day, and it will snowball. It's kind of like in StarCraft. It's like a lot of tension creates release, right? When you play StarCraft, like you don't stop, and then at the end of the game, it's like, oh, like win or lose. Like maybe if you lose, you're mad, but if you win, it's the emotions there. It's so that's great about exercising as well.
Zombie Grub, any words?
Yeah, I don't want to go into like a whole like personal history, but I don't have many comments on it specifically to gaming. I haven't noticed a huge increase in the amount of like workouts I do to like directly my skill, but it does make me less like, eager to jump to saltiness or whatever. It feels like the sun's out and it's bright and it doesn't really matter as much. But for me, I think the angle and like the PSA here is that it's not just about the day-to-day health and mental benefits. Like I'm probably the worst like example here. Like things really escalated quickly for me due to like previous injuries when I was earlier. But like 28 years old and having sciatica and neck issues and having bouts of like RSI in my wrists when I was just like 20 or 21. All this stuff can really easily sneak up on people. Like I actually use weight loss like a ton. Like I don't like that I'm overweight, but I actually in a way view it as good because I was even heavier when I was younger. I was like 200 pounds when I was like 14, 15. And I've already learned the effects of feeling crappy and feeling really not confident in yourself. When I feel like the opposite usually happens and everyone's like, oh, I was healthy when I was younger and I didn't have to work as much. And I'm like, bitch, I worked harder like when I was younger and it sucked. But these things really will sneak up on you when you game as much as we do, when you're on the computer as much as we do. And I know it's like usually advice you hear from 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds and you're like, it's a while, but I mean, we even have, I think, like incorrect PSAs coming out from much of the video game community where like, do your wrist stretches. And it's like, yes, but also your neck and your back and your hips are all terrible for sitting that much. So I guess just my point is like, it's not just about the day-to-day stuff. It's about actually extending your career or just your quality of life for doing all these things.
I think the only thing I would tag onto that specific to StarCraft is everyone has shitty days, by the way. Like I'm on a good week 5,600 MMR, which for me is very good. But lately I've been hovering around like 5,200, which sucks. And each day where I'm not like winning 100 or 200 MMR kind of drags me down, but I end each day working out as well, so I get a lot of that frustration out. And then next day I can kind of get back to work and tackle it. And even if I don't get 100 or 200 MMR, I enjoy it at least. I like playing it, and I don't hate StarCraft. And I get asked that a lot by people. They're like, how do you play this game so much and not at one point just break and hate it? It's because I do other things. I play Warhammer, I socialize, and then I work out. Like, if I just played StarCraft and I was hovering around 5,200 MMR or losing, I would snap. I would, at one point, I would just be like, I'm done. This is fucking stupid. And I'd, of course, come back to StarCraft because you're never done. But I would be angry and it would suck and it'd be less enjoyable. I can honestly say every day I play StarCraft, I have a really good time, even though I'm not winning as much as I would like to be. So, good topic. Thank you. And again, comments in the various different places. But we have less than 30 minutes to close out the show, so I'm going to live do this. This week in StarCraft, we're going to push to notes. So that is the notes that are available on the website. And then if one of my lovely admins or somebody can post that in the chat just so you can have that available to you. It's a wonderful segment. If you know, I'm not trying to... We had BC and Cats on the same show, so unfortunately that meant that it... and me, by the way. Not to just throw it on you guys. We all talk a lot. So we're out of time.
Way, I'm always here when one of the hosts isn't here, it seems.
Oh, shit.
That's when I get invited.
We'll change that.
I never get to hang out with everyone.
So here's... you know what? I'll give you the compliment. Part of the reason is you're specifically targeted is because we need talkative people when it is just me or just Dan, because if it's 3 NA pro gamers, not a lot of words get said, as it turns out. Turns out you guys are pretty good at talking, and we want you around for that. So anyways, that'll be in the show notes. Please do check them out. There's some great stuff happening, and Alessandro did an amazing job putting that all together, so I'm not trying to disrespect the work. It's just that in order to fill this show up, we actually have to pass up on some stuff. Cobra also did a clip segment, as is usual. Please do, if you see some funny clips, remember to submit that to the Pylon Show Twitter, or just find Cobra. And believe me, Cobra's watching you, so it won't be hard to find him. He is everywhere. But we'll end the show, I think, showing those. So instead, we will just go straight into the questions, and then we'll wrap up this show. Unless Cobra starts yelling in my ear that is the worst idea ever, or something like that. But
so how about you read the questions, and I'll show the show notes on live screen while you read the Patreon questions. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay. So let's get through these questions, and then we'll wrap up the show. We're going to show the patch notes, and I think we'll end showing the clips that Cobra was doing as well, but we'll do that as kind of a closing thing, if that works for everybody. But our first question is from NSQ, I believe. Hopefully I'm not butchering that name. Do you think there's an advantage to spawning at the top or bottom of the map? I'll go on, but this is something that I believe Rotterdam has. It's his craziest theory, but if you want to hear something, ask Rotterdam about this. It's pretty incredible. That goes to the chat, and that goes to my friends here as the panelists. Artosis, I can't see it. Where is it? You have to put it somewhere so that I can read it, and then you can do your thing.
1 second, I'm getting things.
Okay. Set that up.
Go ahead.
All right. Artosis say top spawns are better because it's easier to move the cursor downwards. But I always feel bottom spawns are better because the top part of the screen displays more of the map. Any thoughts on you guys?
I agree with Artosis.
You feel that way?
Left to right, and dragging down is easier for me. I think that's easier for most.
For me, it's the opposite. Bottom to top is easier, and then left to right, and then left to right.
All right. So Cats is at top and BC's at bottom. Zombie game.
Wait. But if you spawn at the top, you're dragging the cursor from bottom to top. If you think about it, if you spawn at the bottom, you're dragging it from the top to the bottom, which is what Artosis is proposing is easier. That's what I'm agreeing with. So
I have never had any problems going any which way with my cursor. I even box from like bottom left to top right or like some weird shit. But I think you all are clearly not Terran players. Like obviously one side of the map is better than another, depending on if your add-ons are behind.
Oh, true that.
Or in front, in the wall.
Left versus right. Which then goes, but just while we're sharing theories, that goes to Nathanius's probably oldest complaint is that he thinks add-ons should be switchable. Like if you're on the left side spawn, then it's the add-on is on the left side of the building as opposed to it has to be on the right.
Yeah, you complain for like 500 games, and there's that one Terran game where the reactor goes down and doesn't have 2 Marines to stop the Roach Ravager push, and you just feel so validated.
The more you guys know. Okay, great question. For me personally, I'm a person of culture, just like our very own Zombie Grub here. I'm also a bit of a caveman, I guess. I'm a Protoss player, so like top bottom, I don't fucking care.
Warps and Zealots.
Yeah,
they're gonna go
Warp and Zealots will still be in your base. Yeah, either way. Footsie1 says, if you had a walk-up song before playing or casting like a hitter in baseball, what would your song be?
I actually have one.
I think it's Gasoline from Pitbull, right?
I don't even know what that is.
Can you repeat the question? I feel like I should think.
All right. So you know how like if you watch a MMA fight or a boxing match,
okay,
they walk out to a song?
Yeah.
What's your song? So Zombie Grub already has one. Zombie Grub, what is it?
Oh, Dessa the Bullpen. I mean, it's actually a pretty obscure song, but it's really cool.
Fun fact, while you guys are thinking about yours, they did this for an NASL offline tournament, I believe, and I will always remember Idra's was Kill Everybody by Skrillex, which was so perfect. Beastie Cutie, what are you coming out to, dude?
Honestly, I'd probably pick a troll song. I don't have any like specific, but I don't know. I think unless it's like a BlizzCon or something, you want to pick something cool. Otherwise, I go with something troll, like Banana Phone or something, just to make people laugh. Yeah, like I don't know, because I feel like for a smaller event, it's kind of like maybe a little cringe, for the song to come out as you're coming up. But for BlizzCon, probably something like cool. I don't know.
Matt, are you getting this video muted?
I'm not gonna play enough of it to mute it. Just a little bit.
It's
just his theme song.
That's interesting, Zombie Grub. I don't know if I've ever even heard that song.
Oh, it was on the let's go full feminist here. It was on the RGB documentary, or RBG rather, and it's just really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Cats, what are you coming out to?
Did you say Pitbull already?
Yeah. Are you picking Pitbull?
I'm not sure. Like, I feel like I would be a better representative of Pitbull than you. I could come out with a white suit.
No, I said it was for you. It's for you.
Oh, for me, yeah. I think that Pitbull would be, if we are consistent with the branding thing that we were talking about earlier. I think if I were to take all of that advice in, then Pitbull would be a great option for me.
I would come out to the Jurassic Park theme song. Is what I would come out to.
But that's not pop. That's not like hype,
It's not. But I have this ability to take that song and make it stick in your head. So I would be singing it. Is what it would be. It'd be my
Can you also like come out like a T-Rex, like
little arms. Peter Beer, Peter Beer. They're like, this is so weird. They're like, the Jurassic Park theme song. What is he doing?
Of making the face.
Hell yeah, dude! I'll make all the faces.
The thing,
All right. Yep. Fear Dragon in the chat. Stuck in his head forever now. Sate Zero for the guests only. If Dan and Jeff had to play a best of 7 StarCraft 2 but couldn't look at the game screen ever, instead only relying on their Twitch chat to give them information, who would win, what score, and why? I don't like this question because Dan never looks at his Twitch chat, so...
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I think it'd be a close match. I mean, Twitch chat is Grandmaster. So I think it'd be a 4-3.
No, like In Control would win definitely, because like all of Dan's chat would just be saying, "Why isn't he playing Brood War?"
You're not wrong. For Dan, Jeff,
but probably all the people that give advice in Control are banned, probably. So I don't know.
That's true. I have a very friendly. I have Stockholm Syndrome chat, so they're all like, "We have to answer these questions correct." Do we agree with the assessment? Yeah. Like Dan looking at his chat would be Dan's chat. It's a special experience. Like you guys need to go watch him play Brood War. Because it's such a weirdly hostile place, but Dan literally doesn't look at his chat, so it's totally fine. They're like, God, that's a stupid play. But they take cover, because then after the game, Dan will look at the chat, and then they're like, great game, man. Well played. That was a tough Protoss there.
I feel like what this would come down to is some sort of marketing or recruiting campaign from both Jeff and Dan, right? Because they would actually just try to get like good players to show up on their stream.
Yeah,
that's what they would do. Okay,
well, thank you very much for the question. HyperTurtle asks, people say that to marry a Korean woman, you must beat her father in a game of StarCraft. Is this just a joke, or is there some truth to it? StarCraft 2 or Brood War, is beating him the only requirement, or do you have to get a job too? Now listen, I'm going to handle this one because I don't want a bad message to come out of the Pylon show. Like, I need to... HyperTurtle, if you find, you know, an eligible young lass or lad, whatever, and you feel that you need to beat off the father as hard as you can to try and win for yourself their hand in marriage, you need to do it. You need to get down and beat that dad. Beat him as hard as you can, and beat him hard and fast and quick, too, because that old man's strength will come in later. And just keep beating him until he submits. That's what I would... That's the Pylon show's official recommendation.
Seconded, yeah.
And it's not restricted to Korea, by the way. Any father you come across, beat him. All right, Tranquil. If you could add one Void Ray upgrade in the Fleet Beacon, what would it be? It could be either a passive ability or an active ability. BCQD, I know you're brimming with this.
Wait, the Void Ray ability?
Yes, of the Void Ray. You remember it.
Honestly, I don't know. It's such a bad unit that I don't know what would make it good. I have no idea for it. No idea.
I would add... So what was the old one called? Prismatic Alignment, right? Is that where it would lock onto shit?
The current is. I think you're thinking of Flux Veins.
No, not the speed one. I would call it Prismatic Alignment 2.0. And what I would have it is, instead of it gaining more damage as it continues, I would have it hit something, and then after a period of time, that laser then bounces off and hits something else. And after a period of time, it hits something else, and it hits something else, and it's actually infinite. I think it'd be really interesting.
How about that same idea, but the damage is lower every time it hits something else?
You know what? I'm okay with that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But can you warp them from a prism, though? That's the question.
Hell
Do
no.
you want that as well?
Don't even.
Make Void Rays warpinable.
And then you pick them up in the prism.
See, the chat's already innovating off of this. You can target rocks. You can target your own nexus. Exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
Maybe when they die, they spawn 2 zealots with charge.
After the nerf, it'd be fine to do that.
Infested zealots.
Anybody else have any ideas?
No.
All right, we're good. Zesty, is there a perfect StarCraft 2 tournament format? 6-player round robin groups, best of 3 massive brackets, double elimination brackets. It seems like StarCraft 2 has everything. In some formats have come and gone over the years. I understand this answer changes if the tourney is a weekender versus month-long. You guys have a preferred tournament format?
I think that if anything gets overdone, it's not good anymore. So I prefer a lot of variants, kind of like we have.
You like change, Cats, would you say?
Yes, sir.
Man of change. Man of Zinch.
My favorite one was the thing we had in WCS or GSL Code A, Code S, where you play part of it online and then part of it offline. I think that creates for a lot of story, a lot of hype. I think this was in HOTS like 2014 when we had that system of WCS. And I felt like watching it was really cool because players are preparing for the matches. Every match counts. There's a lot of mind games involved, but also GSL Code A, Code S was pretty cool because you can see the people that are upcoming. And I think GSL Code A, Code S system would actually work really well in foreign scene right now because you have a lot of new players that are coming up but are not quite there yet, and they would be able to shine in Code A and kind of become the people's favorites.
Nice. I'm gonna give a lame answer because it's like kind of what they're asking. I really miss the team format. I really enjoyed, and I mean Brood War team format. I like having a 2 vs 2 in there. I said this a Pylon show or 2 ago, but the 2 vs 2 like map pool and scene now is actually quite good. And it'd be really fun to have 4 or 5 players and then the ace match. That was really cool. And I actually liked all kill format, which I know is not the best because if you had someone like a Serral or Stats or something like that, they would just get 3 or 4 wins. But I missed that. It was fun.
Yeah.
Anybody else before I move on?
Yeah, one thing. I think earlier you guys touched on how this particular format that we had last time wasn't very exciting to watch because of how irrelevant the first round was. So I would like a healthy rotation, something that we think is always fresh and new but works. Or
you'll get that. Montreal is not going to use the same format as far as I'm concerned, or I know.
Yeah. It's not.
They'll go back to the brutal one. All right, Zesty. Wait, no, you already asked that. Nyan, what questions are you absolutely tired of hearing? Next to, when's the Pylon show, and can you take a picture of you choking me? Do you guys have any... this is interesting, because I watch your guys' shows, but I don't know if there's a question that really rubs you the wrong way. So going down the line, BC Cutie, what do the cuties in your chat ask that really pisses you off?
Right now, did you play Alpha Star yet?
Is that Alpha Star?
Like, I don't... Like, how am I supposed to know? I don't know. Yeah, I get that asked a lot. It's not really annoying. It's just like the most common one. What people ask the most? I don't know. Nothing specific. I feel like it's just more of people repeating the same like things that are just annoying to like listen to.
Okay.
One of the things that triggers me the most is when a player does something dumb and you say that's dumb, but you end up losing because it's dumb, right? Yeah. And then you say that, people are like, well, it's so dumb if they won. And I'm like, oh God, just time them out. Like that's the thing that triggers me the most.
Okay. Cats, do you have any of those?
Most questions that start with what's the best something, and yeah, it pertains to StarCraft, I think, are not great.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Mm-hmm. Zombie, keep it to just 2 or 3, I guess.
One is like, what MMR are you? It's really tired of just saying it over and over again. And the second one is just like any really, really general question. Like, what'd you think of WCS Summer? And I'm like, well, it was good because I'm playing a game here. So,
yeah. Oh, this feels so good, you guys, because I have all of these.
Yeah,
so many more. I'm an old man. Yes, I'll just keep it to the StarCraft ones. My favorite is, and this is just a Protoss thing, not to be too Protoss-centric this episode, but I guess we are a little bit. If I go Colossus, why didn't you go Templar? If I go Templar, why didn't you go Colossus? If I go Disruptor, why didn't you go Templar or Colossus? If I go Carrier, why didn't you go Tempest? And they're nice. They're not bad people, They're asking an honest question, but I've been doing this for 20 years, and I got to tell you, I want to die. I want to stop. I just don't want to.
Actually, Protoss suffers from that the most because I notice when I play random, I get those things when I play Protoss. Because it's like, why'd you make Colossus? He had 20 Vikings. I'm like, he had Vikings because I made Colossus. What do you mean? It's like, why didn't you make Storm?
Chill! I'm just asking. Like, I just got into StarCraft, dude. I'm on my phone. Okay, I can't sub. I'm from Europe. Anyways.
One that really bothers me also is whenever they suggest something that you obviously know because you've been playing for 20 years, but you just can't do everything in the game, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, how do you answer that?
Having to tag a little like what's the word, like should get the word, but being like having to say like, yeah, that sucked. Okay, I know that's useful in that situation. Yes, exactly. Like there's always a disclaimer. That's what it is. And everything you say as a streamer.
Yep.
God.
Yeah. I usually answer those like when they're like, why don't you have like links patrolling everywhere so that you can see the word prism coming, And I'll just be like, if you can do that, then you definitely should,
Yeah.
From a Terran point of view, I've had people like I would die to like DTs because they're hide the DT shrine and they're faking upgrading, Blink or whatever, and then someone's like, why didn't you make a missile turret? Holy shit. Wait, what? What does that do? Does it detect stuff? Or like you die to an all-in, it's like,
yes.
Well, I think listen, I know it's 4 minutes into the game, but I feel like if you had 5 battle cruisers, you would defeat the 10 Zerglings. Yeah. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think maybe a couple of siege tanks, throw it on a planetary, and I'm like, how am I supposed to have all that while doing the build? And they're like, well, Hellions didn't help you against roaches. And I'm like, how was I supposed to know there's fucking roaches? What do you mean?
I know.
And then they're like, oh, I was just asking. And I'm just like, God. please.
They're never bad
Yeah, that's
people.
the thing is they are just asking. Like,
yeah, they're
it's
just
like
asking.
Jeff said, they're not bad people.
Yeah, I know, but
it's
like you're trying to answer politely, but you're just like.
You've seen 1,000 of them, 1,000,000, yeah.
Yeah.
Speeding along here, Nets asks, oh no, excuse me, Gunner. Today, Maynard said he never thought he'd ever say the Zerg player is getting a Twilight Council before the Protoss player. During a subcast, Ragnarokette neuroparasited probe during a mismatched MMR game and goes it about how you'd expect. So, what's the craziest play you've ever casted? We gotta
really hard to just bring that up out of thin air.
Yeah.
Cast a lot of weird games.
I will say it. I think for me, commentating alongside Total Biscuit, Bomber targeting his own medevac with a Hunter-Killer missile, and then speeding that into the center of his opponent's army.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or like fantasy.
Newkirk? Was it Newkirk?
Yeah, I think so.
Fantasy EMP'd his own medevacs before doing a Doom drop. That was pretty cool.
Cool.
I guess actually, I think like the most recent one that comes to mind, and it's because it was retweeted like yesterday or something, was like Carrie was losing a game because they actually ran out of interceptors and like the entire map was mined out. That was pretty crazy. I don't think I'm ever going to see that again with the Nation Wars game.
That's just sad. I don't cast, but the game I had today was actually cool to mention. I was playing PvZ and the guy went 12 pull and then 11 hatch. And the reason why he did that, because I saw the hatch and then I saw spawning full finish. The reason why he did that is because the 11 hatch is almost the exact timing as hatch first. So I guess what he was trying to do is for me to scout the hatch, go back, but then he's going 12 pull. And I thought that was really cool. I mean, it didn't work because I scouted the main and I saw it, but
I feel like no Protoss does
cool.
that. I do something similar against Terram. Well, I shouldn't say I do, but I've done. Like against Polt, it worked, but against most players, it doesn't. So like, and I think against most Terran players that are like a very high level, it would work. So correct me if I'm wrong. But basically 3 hatch before pool, only I make my third hatchery at my first hatchery at my third first, then the natural, at the third hatchery at the natural. Then if they scout with an SCV, they never send the Reaper out.
Yeah, I think Terran's different because Terran usually just scouts the natural, but Protoss always goes into the main base because they want to see if you're making the third after. Yeah. But
Terran's
I thought it was
can the Reaper move out or not?
Yeah, so I thought it was an interesting play. It's cool to see like these moves that, to me are new. So
I was basically just saying that that move was cool, but I do a cooler one. So that's
of course you do, Cats. Ravi Parikh. Congrats on 57 episodes of the Pylon Show. My question is, with Cyril finally defeated by Raynor, is it true Cyril is not only washed up, but that Raynor is also washed up since he hasn't won a single competitive match since WCS Summer? Oof. Thanks for answering. Massive Ion Tower fan.
Yeah, they're both washed up and they're terrible, and they should just retire. They're too old to play the game as well.
Seconded.
Yeah.
Yeah, too old.
Okay, we all agree. Thank you, Ravi. One final question from Alessander. I'm going to do this from memory. That's how good of a host I have become. What's the last meal you cooked? Microwave doesn't count. Bonus points for a walk.
I cooked a Beyond Meat hot dog.
What do you mean Beyond Meat?
It's like the Impossible Burger, but a different brand.
But it's possible.
What is an Impossible Burger?
Really? You haven't? Okay. So like it's a plant-based burger, but it does a remarkable job of having the texture and appearance of a regular burger. The taste is also pretty good. It obviously isn't exactly like a burger, but it's pretty good. And it's being sold in like a bunch of restaurants now, including like Burger King has an Impossible Burger.
Cool.
There you go.
Burn it with fire. PC Cutie, what have you cooked?
I actually made hot dogs this morning. So
are we being fucking serious right now?
Yeah.
You made a hot dog this morning? Like you collected the meat byproducts and wadded up into a shaft? Or do you mean you boiled water and dropped a hot dog in it?
Microwave.
Yeah.
So much better.
He didn't boil it. You didn't boil it.
I boiled it.
What did you do?
Oh, okay.
No, I boiled it.
He boiled it. Dude, I know this guy.
Look at him. Did you fry it? You microwave it.
No,
You microwave
I
it.
Boiled it.
No,
That's
I boil.
Amanda
No,
microwave.
I always boil. I never do anything else with hot dogs. Other things just ruin them.
Did you know it was hot dog day?
No.
No. We had a lot of hot dogs and hamburgers for my dad's birthday party.
Is it grilling hot dogs the thing to do?
Yeah.
You can boil it, dude. It's not as good at all, of course.
Grilling's definitely the best option.
Grilling is the best, yeah. Cats, you're a cooker, dude. I've seen you cook some stuff.
Today I cooked, well, I'm on keto as well, so I'm having to get creative. So it was some yellow and green peppers sliced and pan-fried, I guess, with bacon bits. So I chopped bacon as well. And then I seasoned it with a bunch of stuff and walnuts as well.
Okay.
And that's what I ate.
That sounds
Oh, and lime juice. I added lime juice. It actually worked out really well.
Mayo with ketchup.
No mayo, no mayo. What?
Did you say yogurt? You didn't say yogurt.
No.
Yeah. We have a like in Europe. Well, actually, I don't know for all Europe, but like Southeast Europe, you have like yogurt that you drink. So it's not like yogurt that you eat with the spoon. Actually, when I went to US the first time, it was so rare to find a yogurt that was like that. And when I found it, it was terrible. So I don't know. It's one of those things. See, it's one of those things that we talked about at the beginning. Yogurt here, you can drink it with almost any meal, especially for breakfast, and it tastes really nice. Like it kind of complements the food.
High in protein.
But in US, that's not a thing at all.
No.
You don't drink yogurt in the US.
We don't drink our yogurt in America, sir.
It's too thick. It's too thick. Yeah.
Oh yeah, here it's like you have it where you can eat it with a spoon, but it's also drinkable.
Yeah,
so it's really nice.
It's very nice. I like
to
it
open up your throat.
It's delicious.
Well, checkmate to you, Alessandro. I don't really cook food at all, basically. I eat a salad for lunch almost every day. I'm one of those boring people, too, that if I find something I like, I just eat that forever. So I have a salad for lunch, and then at night I make up a spaghetti or maybe some lasagna.
That is food for sure.
Well, yeah, but I microwave it.
That's edible.
Oh, fair.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah. Why? Pasta's so easy. Just learn how to make
I don't
pasta.
microwave the spaghetti. I boil that. I guess I get...
Yeah,
if we're counting boiling, then yes, I guess I cooked spaghetti.
Oh, Misty, you okay, bro?
I don't know. Yeah. All right,
I missed that. Maybe it's better.
We're boiling stuff here.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the questions. Appreciate that. Thank you for this has ended up being a long show. Of course it did. Zombie Girl was like, I can't be on for more than 3 hours. We're like, that's not going to be a problem. 3 hours later. Anyways, really appreciate everybody. This is where I once again say, if you heard Jeff yelling and you're like, man, he's really mad. No, I'm not. I do that and have done that since Save the Game, which is 10 years ago. It usually makes for highlights and funny videos. That's the part I'm not supposed to say. But in the spirit of marketing myself, as learned by Zombie Grub, when Jeff yells, he's not mad. What do I do when I get mad? I don't even know.
Shut down. I mean, usually if I'm really mad, I just like...
I get quieter, I think, if anything.
Yeah, exactly. You get quieter.
You get sad, Jeff. You get like...
I get sad.
Get, like, visibly, yeah.
Yeah, I think sad.
Visibly,
Becomes like a sad puppy dog.
Become a sad puppy dog, yeah. Well, anyways, thank you to our sponsors, to AFK Tea, for making wonderful tea, and support Lycan, of course. Hope he's doing well. We kind of hear an update from him or however this is going. We actually haven't done that. I just realized that. And then also it's National Hot Dog Day, as was celebrated by BC Cutie. If you're hearing this now, it's almost too late. If you're on the West Coast, you have 3 hours to put a long shaft of meat down your throat and just guzzle it. It can be with mayonnaise. You can have yogurt or ketchup or mustard.
Some bread too.
The bread. You could do that, or just the meat. It depends really on how you. It's Hot Dog Day, guys, not hot dog and buns. Okay, let's not mix up the message here.
Yeah.
But yeah, put in the code Hot Diggity Dog, which is, I believe, Cobra Venom's uncle's name. So I think that's just one word, and if you put that in there, you'll be supporting us. Costs you no money, but it helps fill up the prize pool, which we get the cash out at the end. And of course, like I said, build a robot army and a moon base, which is what we're trying to achieve here. Last but certainly not least, the fine folks on Patreon that support us. We really, really appreciate you guys. Their names are on screen here. Absolutely incredible how some of these names have been here forever. It's fun seeing new names pop up as well. But the support is real and really appreciate it. The show cannot run for free. We're going to pay these guests. We got to pay Cobra. We got to make some money ourselves and create new and better content and feel good about that. So you guys are the ones that make that possible. So thank you so much. This episode will be up on YouTube, on ArtosisTV, within 24 hours if you're a Patreon supporter at Tier 5, Cobra. I should know that.
It's usually with Tier 2 or 3.
Tier 2. There it is, Tier 2.
Yep.
If you're from Europe or just cheap in general, you don't have to worry about spending any money to consume this content. You either watched it now or heard it, or you can wait a day or two later and it'll be up on our podcast distribution stuff and on YouTube. So you can watch it for free. Thank you, everybody. Let's sign off here and get these guys off to do other stuff. Beastie Cutie, the #1 random player on Earth, #1 YouTube in Serbia. Is that true?
No.
You should.
No. There's, yeah.
You got to look into that. You might be the only one.
Oh, I did.
Oh, you did?
No, not #1 for sure.
What do you got coming up? What are you doing, man? Where can people follow you?
So first of all, I stream pretty much every day. StarCraft 2 and some other games as well. So you can check them out on Twitch, Beastie Cutie, YouTube, Beastie Cutie, SC2, daily StarCraft 2 uploads. Currently, I am doing only Sentries to Grandmaster. I'm almost Master 1 on EU. So that's a lot of fun. We had a couple of wins where an Oracle hallucinator shows up and they leave the game. Had a couple of games where I hallucinated a bunch of Archons and they left the game the moment they saw it. So it's a lot of fun. Sentries don't do a lot of damage.
You know you have to play Nathanius. That's what this is building up to.
Sure. I'm up for it. Actually, I had 100% win rate in PvT until today. And it's pretty funny because Terrans I feel like they're, it's easiest to tilt them, especially with force fields.
No, do you think you'll be for sure? You think you'll make it for sure? How are you feeling?
I think I'm almost Master 1. I've beaten like 5K players on EU already with it, but I don't think GM is possible.
Ooh,
but I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I need like 600 more, which is whatever.
Yeah, marketing. I would have thought you would have tried an A.
Wow.
No.
Well, that'd be.
Don't you say it.
Anyway, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun, like always. So, yeah.
Cats, what are you up to?
Streaming every day as well. Different various games. I stream StarCraft at least a couple of times a week, but unscheduled as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Go check out my team. My Twitter on screen, it's @RootCats. My team is Root, so rootforroot.com, and we have recaps on the GSL coming out pretty much for every play day of the GSL made by Saxy, so shout out to him. And chilling. Come hang out.
Love it. Thank you very much. Zombie Grub.
You can follow me on Twitter @ZG Gaming, YouTube and Twitch. It is Zombie Grub. And I will be streaming literally right now / after this my tabletop RPG show with Livy B. Maynard and Fear Dragon.
I'm sure we will host that immediately afterwards. We will turn on your stream. Thank you guys for coming on. Appreciate it. Like I said earlier, just a tip of the hat when we were like, we want people that'll be talking about this and disagree and have opinions. You were some of the people that came to mind, and we really appreciate you guys. So thank you for coming on and giving all this time, enduring my rants, enduring Katz's forever locked in devil's advocate attitude, and Beastie Cutie's hot dog guzzling opinions. I really appreciate that, you guys. Thank you. Like I said, this will be up on YouTube, and next week we should have Artosis back, I believe, and we'll have a regular episode. So just thank you everyone for supporting and watching. Make sure and follow these guys on their Twitters and on their channels. And if you have a Twitch Prime sub, throw it out there to somebody. We all do StarCraft stuff and make content and rely on you guys to support us to keep doing that, so please do. Thank you very much. No, we're gonna host. Yeah, we'll show the clips next time. We'll do the clips. Kobe's got some good ones. We'll make sure and get those out to you guys eventually. But thank you. We're done. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.